across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, there we go. Thursday, the 20th of August, will forever be etched in the memories of many people. For young 16 and 17-year-olds across the UK, it'll be the day they get their GCSEs. For the Messiah of Manchester and all of his acolytes, it'll be the day they went, we've been in number 10 for a whole month and we've done absolutely nothing. But for the majority of the United Kingdom, it will be that Harry and Meghan are officially, and exclusive by the wonderful Matt Wilkinson, front of the Sun, Harry and Meg are coming home. Sorry, this was 18 months ago. This was Harry 18 months ago. I'm a bit confused.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done. Despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
There he goes, Mr. Flip-Flop. But the official story is that Harry and Meghan are moving back 6 years after quitting royal life. The kids are already enrolled in a school. There are no plans for them to take up royal duties. They're going to live in a non-royal residence, and everything's absolutely fantastic. Just a few questions I might throw at you all this morning. Who's going to fund their lifestyle? And this big thing that's gone on for 6 years, this sort of £1 million court case against security. So what, he's just accepted that, or a secret deal? We're told that the royals didn't find out until Sunday. I bet William and Kate are seething. I'm sorry, there will be people listening to this who go, oh, that's lovely. I'm very cynical. I don't believe a word that anything comes out of their mouths. I mean, listen, somebody said to me this morning, maybe they're splitting up, but he's getting his kids back before she keeps them in California. I've no idea. I jokingly said at 6 o'clock, 2 more economic migrants on their way to England, so I thought it a nice way to start the show today. Well, I didn't, Christian did. Why don't you leave a nice voice note? What's the prize this morning? Oh, this is good. Oh, this is good from M&S. Oh, God, hold on a minute. Here we go. Look, I got this. A Turkish delight bar. That's for the best voice note this morning. What would you say to Harry and Meghan? You know, leave a welcome note. A welcome voice note for Harry and Meghan. Let them know that what they're coming back to. Tell them why this country's so great and why they should definitely... I mean, I heard a rumour that they'd actually decided to leave America because they didn't like Donald Trump. Have they been here recently? Honestly, what an absolutely outrageous story that is. I'd love to hear what you make of it. We've got an absolute surge of people, genuinely, to talk about this. Kinsey Schofield, Angela Levin, hopefully Andrew Lowney, Rupert Bell. They'll all give their thoughts. We want yours on 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The other big story, and it pains me, this pains me, on the day that Shabana Mahmood admitted, and I quote, that she wants to encourage, that would be the right word, encourage the spread of asylum housing across England in a fair way, fair to the people, we discover that this is honest, the Home Office is forced to tell asylum seekers in a booklet that we found out, don't rape women. It's an insane new booklet. It's handed out to illegal migrants. It teaches them how to avoid sex crimes, not to abuse children. So the fact that they're dangerous and our government needs to tell them how to behave in a different society as they come from a different culture doesn't mean anything then. Surely, if you've got people that you are freely, or rather privately, admitting are dangerous, so much that you have to say, that's a woman, don't rape her, that's a child, don't abuse her, you're still sat there, are you, Burnham and Mahmood, going, it's all right to spread these people across the United Kingdom? Absolutely unbelievable. And to prove that point, you know, people say, Jez, where does this stuff come from? This is true. A migrant who raped a sleeping woman wins the right to remain in my country because, again, he used the ECHR. Hendrix Equin, 34, took 9 years to admit he was to blame for the appalling attack. It was reported that he raped the woman, ready for this, because of his sexual entitlement and tried to place responsibility on the victim. But a judge ruled he could remain, oh, my God, he could remain in the United Kingdom because he'd learnt his lesson. It is utterly, utterly ludicrous. Those are the two big news stories for Thursday, the 20th of August. 0344 499 1000. Text messages 87222. And let's say a very good morning to the perfect man, a man who looks good in linen, a man who can demand and actually control a stage, and a man who, like me, is slightly knackered. Good morning, Peter.
I'm not slightly knackered, thank you very much.
You are,
Speak for yourself.
Well, you're full of beans. Is that just QPR atop of the championship?
Well, that's one reason, but I'm also very much looking forward to raising your blood pressure this morning.
Oh.
If we could measure it now, and then in an hour's time when I leave, I'd like to see whether I've succeeded.
Is this your sole aim, to wind me up this morning?
He's coming home, he's coming home, he's coming, Harry's coming home. That's a good start, isn't it?
No.
I bet it's nudged up a few spots.
Don't. See, the thing I don't get, right, is you have slagged off the royal family. You have patently used that slagging off to finance your lifestyle. You've moaned and bitched about this country and the people in it and the institutions and what we don't do. And at the first sign of running out of money, because there's nothing more in your life than being paid to slag off the very thing you say you want nothing to do with, you're back in the United Kingdom. I can't have it. Absolutely can't have it.
Forgiveness is a wonderful thing.
Oh, God, here we go. Father Blexley's in the building. Go on, you do your sermon then.
I will. It is a wonderful thing to receive. It is an even more gratifying thing to bestow upon somebody. And I know, because back in the day, I certainly wasn't the man I am now, and I certainly wasn't the man that I should have been. And I upset people. I hurt people hugely. And it was all my fault. I have turned my life around. I have, through my deeds, more than my words, proved myself worthy of forgiveness, and it was granted to me. And it was a truly, truly wonderful thing, particularly from my mother-in-law, who's no longer with us, rest her soul, Anne, and the relationship that we had thereafter. She had every reason on the planet to despise me.
Why?
And she did.
What, because of your job?
No, because of the way I treated her daughter. I was not the husband I should have been in the early days of our marriage. I was a complete idiot. I'll keep it polite. I absolutely was. And Anne, of course, was rightfully upset at how I behaved whilst I was married to her daughter. And she was extremely angry, rightfully so. I got my act together, and through my deeds, not just my words, I became the husband that I should have been. I became the father to Anne's grandchildren that she admired. She admired me as a father. And consequently, she found it in her soul to bestow forgiveness upon me. And quite frankly, that's been one of the greatest things I've ever been given in my life. And the relationship that Anne and I then forged and had and enjoyed was a thing of beauty. It was wonderful. And I miss her today as much as I did on the day that she passed. May she rest in peace. I loved her.
This is bloody... I didn't expect this to be life stories of Peter Blexley. Good for you, then.
Forgiveness is a wonderful thing.
So you want me to forgive Harry and Meghan?
I don't think whether you grant them forgiveness or not doesn't really matter. I think whether the King and the Queen and equally as important whether his brother does.
What about his
or
subjects?
Not.
What about us that have learnt and listened and heard all the slaggings and the bitchings and the moanings and everything that's happened?
I'm not a man of faith, but if anybody wants to pick up the prodigal son and read that story today, they might find it within themselves. Let's look at the positives, if we may. And I can hear people already saying, Peter, you're off your rocker.
I think you need medicating.
I get that. But
he's
Harry,
out of bed again, nurse. He's out of bed again.
I've met people who served in the army with Harry.
Yeah.
And everybody I know that served with him said he was a cracking soldier. He was
absolutely.
Very good soldier.
He was. Served
his country, and they respected him for that. He's also gone through a lot in his life, an awful lot in his life.
So is his brother.
Yes, granted, absolutely. The loss of his mother, all of that, marrying and then having difficulties with his family. And let's face it, many, many people in this fabulous audience this morning will have had issues with their families, fallouts and such like. And they happen. And I think if he's still a young man in my eyes, he's still
Everybody's young in your eyes.
Yeah,
aren't
thank
they?
you very much. He's still a young man. If he can show contrition, if he can show and accept the harm that he's done, the damage that he's caused, and he takes responsibility for that, then perhaps his father has already granted him forgiveness.
But I will just, and listen, I want all sides. She, who is despised by many. Let me read you something. Talk. I'm gobsmacked that the gruesome twosome have the gall to return after the way they've trashed this country, the royal family. My plea to the media, pointless I know, is to ignore them when they return, otherwise it will enable them to continue their victim narrative and say they are being proven right with all of their complaints, says Nicola in Norfolk. Here's what I'd like to say. You had your say, I'll say my bit. I respected them to say I don't want to be in that goldfish bowl and I want to go to California and bring up my kids. I said it every single day. Good for them. But you cannot expect the people of this country, hard-working alarm clock Brits, to take seriously a couple who 8 hours after they say that and land in the United States of America to a new life, sell their soul for $100 million, and the only way that they make a living is to then slag off the very institution that put them where they are. And then 6 years later, you're going to come back. There's a part of me, I'll be called a conspiracy theorist. I mean, Christian said it earlier. Has he been arguing the toss about security for 6 years because he knew that this point would come? What's going to happen with that? There's so much. I just want to... Listen, voice notes are raining in. Shane, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Shane in Bournemouth. I don't think Harry and Meghan should be allowed to come back to Britain. They've absolutely disgraced the royal family. They disgraced this country and they disgraced themselves. And worst of all, they disgraced the Queen. I don't think they should be allowed back. But we know why they're coming back, because America's fed up with them. They don't want them anymore. It's just pathetic, isn't it? But hey-ho.
I completely understand and respect that position. And Nicola, who messaged in early, I completely get where people are coming from. I absolutely understand that. I think they would have a very long and perhaps bumpy road towards forgiveness. But I would just say, and forgive me just repeating myself, forgiveness is a brilliant thing to receive.
Yeah.
It's an even better thing to bestow upon someone.
Morning, Jez. Does the Turkish delight come with a talk mug? You weren't here yesterday. Some lady had asked for a mug. We've ended up sending 2. I saw the boss after the show. I said, he said we haven't got... I'll give them away. Keep up the great work. Ian in Australia. He's in Australia. As a Californian, says Susan Campbell, I'd like to thank England for taking Meghan and Harry back. She's in Northern California. Morning, yeah, we've done it. Apparently they didn't like Donald Trump. Somebody read this one. JK, Harry and Meghan, are they going to be the new king and queen up north? Dave Colne. Can I have a mug? Who's going to provide the security for the kids when they're at school? Honestly, I'm telling you. Good morning, Jeremy. Damon from Wigan. So the American dream is over and the money has stopped rolling in. So 2 economic migrants are on the way. They're heading back after all they've said about us, the British people. What is it about this country that people think, oh, we're getting low on money? I know what we'll do. We'll jump on a boat and we'll come over to Great Britain. They should come back on a boat and rip us all off like the rest of them. Disgusting. I don't want them back. Jeremy, Harry and Meghan are coming home. Oh, great. You might think these concerned Liberals would settle in a diverse inner city area in Birmingham or Coventry, but no, we're going to have to stomach them, swanning around the Cotswolds of the west of that. It's probably true, isn't it, with the rest of them? Enough to turn me to a Republican, says Jim in Warwick. Wow, Margaret's in Birmingham. My prediction, they will 100% eventually live at Royal Lodge. He will get the protection he's been hanging on about, banging about. Bingo. Get ready for flour sprinkles and word salad waffle. No, thank you. That's really interesting. Well, one thing we haven't talked about is our future kin, and I genuinely, I would love to know what's going on in William and Kate's head this morning. I don't think I mean, listen, you can talk from a forgiveness point of view as a brother, but one thing that William is absolutely steeped in is a respect for his grandmother and the institution that's the monarchy. And Harry and Meghan caused his late grandmother real pain before she died, and he will not forgive that. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm with them 1,000,000%.
But Harry is William's brother. I don't have a brother. I do. I have a sister.
I haven't spoken to my brother for 7 years.
OK, well, that's very, very sad in my view.
Should have treated my parents better. I'm just being completely honest, a bit like you were.
And I doff my cap to you for your honesty on air. That's amazing. I think it's sad. I'm sure that if there could be some form of reconciliation with your brother, that might be something that would bring you both some pleasure in life. I hope that William and Harry can reach a point. They're still relatively young men. They've got decades and decades in front of them. Why would you want to live the rest of your life with a rift, with hurt, with division,
because Pete,
with pain?
Because Pete, you were a copper and you know more than anybody that sometimes certain behaviour means that there is no way back. Sometimes in life, in my humble opinion, it's like the people who say, well, I know he's murdered 3 people, but there must be something good about him. There are wrong people. I'm not saying... I am with you. Forgiveness is a massive thing. I get that. And there's no part of me that's cynical about that. But there's also consequences to behaviour. And I've never believed that these two, who have pushed every single boundary and wound up and despicably treated so many of the royal family, I can't imagine, right, those two coming back and showing contrition. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll do an interview and say we got it all wrong about this wonderful country and we apologise. Can you see Meghan doing that? Absolutely not in a million years.
Maybe
and that's
they will.
what would... Maybe they will. Listen, Harry and Meg, they left to make money on the back of the royal family. Now they've come back to try to make money off the back of my royal family. I'd say 180% and 85% this will be Meghan's idea.
If I'm appointed head of their PR team, which is about as likely as me landing on the moon this afternoon, then I would very much say you need to express some contrition, but you've got to mean it. It's got to come from the heart and soul.
Natasha says, Peter, you're being very noble, but Harry and Meghan are selfish, unpleasant people, and now they've nothing left in America, they're going to start grifting over here.
I completely get that standpoint. I absolutely get that, and I hear it, and I completely respect it.
Harry and Meghan coming back. Thousands of men who need to be told not to rape women and girls by the government, pay for them to live amongst us, and a PM who thinks a £2 bus fare will save us from economic Armageddon. Can you do me a favour? Are those houses still free in Rwanda? I need to get out of this godforsaken country today, says Chris in Newbury, sort of with him. Dunk is in Chester. Morning, Super Pete. Is there any fan club you have I can join? Also, obviously Dunk's been in therapy. Also, your extended tour, does it come near Chester?
Please forgive me, Duncan Disorderly, but it's a bit early. It's a bit early to start drinking.
Great to wake up to King Peter. Keep speaking the truth. Look, honestly, you've touched an old man, which I'm not sure is a good thing to do. Trev's in Boston. Harry and Meghan should be coming on a royal boat from France, like all economic migrants. It's obvious. They are trying to get in on the act. 6:20. We're live across the UK. Is that a new one, Shane, please? No? Well, get rid of it. 0344 499 1000. Are we going now live or after the break? After this break, we're going straight to America, to the voice of royalty herself, Kinsey Schofield, next on Talk Breakfast.
Some member of the public, they said, if you were Andy Burnham, what would be the first thing that you would sort out in the UK? And I was thinking of what would be the popular consensus, not the political consensus, because I don't think the public are as concerned about rough sleeping as they are about potholes. Why doesn't he sort out the potholes and send a message to people, we're actually going to improve the quality of life in the United Kingdom? And
but
so
potholes don't matter as much as people. I mean, you can't be saying that.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:22. You're waking up on Thursday, the 20th of August. Maybe you're waking up to GCSE results. Maybe you're waking up to the news that it's a month since Andy the Messiah Burnham landed in Downing Street. Whatever. You're waking up to the news that a Brexit bombshell happened overnight. Harry and Meghan are coming back to the United Kingdom. Their children are going to school here. The royals only found out on Sunday. Many questions to be asked. How are you going to grift for a living here? Non-royal, apparently. Who's going to pay for your security? Loads of you getting involved. This is interesting. Pete was very honest. Peter Blexley is with me. Sharon in Northampton admired what you said, but she said that in order to forgive, forgiveness must be desired and an apology received. I don't trust their motives at all, says Sharon.
I'm completely in tune, or should I say, understanding all these wonderful contributors who are making brilliant points that are very difficult to argue against. But I maintain my position.
Yeah,
we'll just have to wait and see.
Pete, if you're just tuning in, says, you know, forgiveness is a wonderful thing, to give it and to receive it. Can we see that happening? I say there's no way on God's earth the British public will forgive either of those until there is some contrition shown. Joe in Shrewsbury, though, sums it up for me. Jez, who actually really gives a damn about Harry and Meghan when we have so many important issues to solve in this country of mine? Personally, I'd rather wipe my backside on sandpaper than hear anything to do about the two of them. We will talk about this country in a minute, but so many people getting involved. Voice notes, 0344 499 1000, text 87222. Charlie, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Peter. It's Charlie and George off out on the road, helping to pay that 40 billion welfare bill. Listening to these migrants getting this booklet to advise them that if they have sex with an under 16-year-old, it's illegal and they're getting into trouble. That fact alone, that small fact is reason enough for me not to let that man into this country. Just that little thing there, for some reason. Where does it stop? Welcome back, Harry and Meghan. I love a royal, I do. Do yourself a favour though, mate. Don't write any more books. Have a nice day, everyone. Over and out.
Brilliant. 625 0344 499 1000. Harry and Meghan might even make a visit to Sussex, says Margaret, as they have the honour of being the Duke. Oh, I bet they will. Marie is in Maidstone. Lots of people this morning. Jez, you expected people to forgive you after your own public smearing, didn't you? It is only who deserves forgiveness. I'd have thought you, of all people, could handle this with a bit more dignity. Take a leaf out of Peter's book. I don't have a problem with Harry and his family getting protection, or would the public be happier if something happened to them? Marie in Maidstone. Listen, I'll accept that, but I will also say something, if you want me to be as honest as Peter was. I was absolutely slaughtered, and everybody knows the reason for that. But they also know the outcome of that. And some of what... I'll tell you one thing I did do. I kept quiet for 6 years. I never, ever, ever, ever spoke out or did an interview or did anything. And I think that's the issue with Harry and Meghan. I think, Marie, if you listen to what I said I respected them when they walked away. I can't, as a royalist, respect them to then slag off an institution. They have a right to do that, but when you slag it and then you come back to it because patently your options are out, I just think that is the issue, Marie. But listen, I've told you about this show before. Everybody has a right to an opinion, and that is the point of this show. You have to have an opinion. That's the right thing, isn't it?
I think probably every human being on Earth, certainly everybody listening to this show perhaps, has made a mistake in their life.
Everybody
has done something that they look back, reflect upon and go, ooh.
But if you repeatedly do that, people worry about your motives or your authenticity, don't they?
Yes, of course they do. I think contrition will be key if they do want to win the court of public opinion over. And
do you think they could? Do you think they could?
If they genuinely believe it, the worst thing I think they could possibly do is come back and be fake and be false and be flaky and
so you would understand the people like me who believe that that's going to happen because it's happened for 6 goddamn years.
Yeah, any act of contrition that they do will have to very much come from the heart and soul and be genuine. And I think if they threw themselves at the feet of the great British public asking for forgiveness and mercy, I think if they were absolutely genuine and they then wanted to dedicate the rest of their lives towards doing things that would be to the benefit of
Absolutely
this great
agree.
nation, then I think people might actually reflect upon what they think about them. And
I am
they could have a good
totally
life.
with you, and actually, Marie, and I respect the fact she made that call, but if you're going to... You're so right. If you want to say, look, I got that wrong, as we've all done on numerous occasions, it's how you behave, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people listening to this morning will go, well, they've behaved so appallingly for 6 years, it seems, that we don't believe that there isn't an ulterior motive. I mean, when he met the King the other day in Highgrove, that was great. That was the first time there had been anything like that where it wasn't leaked to the press before he'd even left the building.
Yeah.
And maybe it is the start of something new.
Yeah.
I just don't feel they really understand how much of a back foot they're starting on. We're going to go to Kinsey Schofield in a sec. We've also got this other big news story. As you know, the Home Office, this is unbelievable, this story, today announcing that they intend, well, Ruth Shabana Mahmood, to spread asylum housing further and fairer across the United Kingdom on the very day that the Daily Mail... I mean, this is an extraordinary story. Ministers admitting that they tell asylum seekers don't rape women or abuse kids in this bloody document they give out, right? So they know how dangerous these people are to women, and they want to spread them out across our society. 0344 499 1000. Boz, good morning.
Morning, JK. Travelling Boz here. OK, so one of the main stories you're talking about is Shabana Mahmood agreeing to spread these people around Britain. I mean, but I'll tell you what, when these people come in, they can be picked up by Burnham's bus and coach tours. He's so obsessed with buses, he can pick them all up in Dover, one every hour, off goes the bus, and it drops you off at all different places, hotel included.
Listen, I mean, we haven't talked about this yet. We'll crack on with it. We've got Kinsey to go to in just a sec. This is an unbelievably appalling story. As an ex-copper, I mean, on the day we discovered that a migrant who raped a sleeping woman wins the right to remain in the United Kingdom, you've got a government saying, I'll tell you what we'll do, we're going to spread migrants more evenly amongst middle-class Brits. On the day that we find out there's a booklet that says, we understand you come from a different culture and have a different system, a value system, but by the way, just don't rape women or abuse kids. Pete, it's embarrassing.
It is so appallingly and dangerously neglectful what this government and previous governments have done. Now to spread these potentially incredibly dangerous people around the country is a dereliction of duty by this government. The main problem, I believe, is that these people are being processed far too quickly. Of course, the main problem is that they're coming here in the first place.
Far too quickly?
But they're being processed. Yeah, when they arrive at Dover, they go to Manston, the airport down there, where there's a processing centre. And because of the volume of people and because of how understaffed it is and because of pressures put upon the staff by human rights legislation, they're rushing them through. They're absolutely rushing them through. So they're then getting on a bus within 24, 48 hours and then being spread around the country. So there is no kind of what you would call staging point where you go, OK, pal, you've come in off a boat, let's properly interrogate you and your background and find out who you are. And then, if need be, throw you in a cell, which I personally think should happen to all of them.
But we haven't got any cells.
They should all be detained.
Oh, yeah, because we're going to let prisoners out,
camps,
aren't we? Yeah.
You know, and I'm, as you know, I'm all in for turrets with machine guns at the top of them and snarling
detention centre on a Scottish island surrounded by midges with basic blankets and bedding. I'm so done with this guy. This story does my head in. If you are, as a government, saying to the women of the United Kingdom, you know, we have to give these men, and before all the lefties jump up and down, different culture, different ideology, and and do you know the irony of this? The misogyny of these men is off the scale. If you have to give them a document saying it's not right in our society to rape a woman or to abuse a child, A, and one, what does that tell you? But B, and two, on the day a guy who raped a sleeping woman is allowed to stay, man.
Yeah, and he's from Italy. Like, there's a lot of flights to Italy every day, believe you me. They could have slung him out years ago, years and years ago. But why is he staying? Oh, yes, human rights, here we go again. But actually, the problem runs even deeper. Because, of course, Don't Rape Women is the dreadful and rightful headline. But it goes further, this document. It says women so they tell these people that women can work, study, travel and make their own choices. This is the kind of depth that they're having to tell these people what women are allowed to do in this country.
And does that not tell us all the country and the values that they have from whence they came?
Yes, men and women are treated equally by the law, by employers, by schools and by services. It is against the law to treat someone unfairly because of their gender. We're having to teach these monsters.
And do you know what the left will say today? It's not their fault, you see. They didn't understand that women and children were off limits. Right, 6:32. Your thoughts on that? 87222. You can start the voice note 0344 499 1000. Only 2 stories in town. A Home Office booklet tells asylum seekers don't rape women and abuse children. On the same day, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, wants to spread more and more illegal migrants across this country. Absolutely disgraceful. Love your thoughts on that. And the other big news story of the day, they're coming home. Oh, a Mexit bombshell. Harry and Meghan back to the UK after 6 years in the Californian wilderness / sunshine. The kids are going to enrol in a school. A few people are saying, oh, right, good. The rest of you are going, oh, my God. Ben, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Ben from the Black Country. Preempting the topic of conversation, everyone's lips this morning. Harry and Meghan coming back to the UK. We don't want them, especially her. The only reason they've come back is because their careers have been an absolute shambles in America. They've got nothing else to do than try and cling on to their royal titles to try and make themselves some money. We don't want her. But the crap they've said about this country, and now they want to come back. It's just going to be a clown show. I'm sure it's going to be a great show.
It might not be. I don't know. 634 0344 499 1000. This lady's been at it, I'm going to say all night. That doesn't sound right. Let's cross to LA. The first voice of royalness. Kinsey Schofield, good morning. Have you been at it all night, darling?
I have been working all night. I've done a few interviews, yes.
Can I just say, Reg nailed it. Do you know what he's put? Jeremy, what with the ginger ninja coming back to the UK with his deplorable wife and family, does that mean that... Well, he's put Kenny Schofield, I'm sure he means... Does that mean Kinsey Schofield's going to move to the UK now, please God?
Oh, my gosh. I've said that to everyone that's messaged me about this. I said, do you think they'll take me with them? The answer is no. I don't think they'd take me with them.
Now, I'm going to give you... I want to hear your story, your side of this. The facts are in front of us. They're coming back after 6 years away. The kids are already enrolled in a school. There are no plans for royal duties. They're not going to live in a royal residence. Lots of questions. What about the security that you fought for 6 years? How is it suddenly fine for you to live here? Because that interview that I played earlier, he said, I can never see a situation where I bring my kids and children to this country safely, right? So how's that going to be safe? How long has this been planned? Apparently the royals only found out on Sunday. And how angry do you think that William and Kate will be, Ms. Schofield?
Well, you asked me a lot of stuff right there, so let's do it one at a time. My sources are telling me that there is genuine concern within the Wales camp about what Harry and Meghan moving back could mean for the Prince and Princess of Wales. They've not forgotten the threats that they received after the Oprah Winfrey interview. There was an increase in threats in real life and increase in threats and harassment on the internet, which bled into the "Where is Kate" chaos, where people were terrorizing Catherine while she was dealing with cancer. Of course, I don't think that there's any way that Prince William is going to be excited about this news. I think his priority is to protect his wife and children, and he's probably incredibly worried about the presence of the Sussexes in the same country that he's in.
Do you think he'll be fuming?
I mean, well, here's the situation. If this story did not break, today, you and I would have had such a sweet conversation about Queen Camilla's revelations about King Charles's cancer. That to me is proof of what a distraction these two people are from the working royals, from the legitimate work that this family does, and what a great reflection they are and what great ambassadors they are for your country. Instead of having that conversation about King Charles's, determination and resilience through cancer, here we are today talking about a failed reality couple that are crawling home because they couldn't make it in Hollywood. And so, yeah, I mean, what a nightmare for this family.
It's really interesting that you brought that up about the king, because Jan from Newcastle sent a text whilst you were saying that, which I think is something I hadn't thought about already. She said, my take on the Mexic story is perhaps the king is more ill than we, the British public, are being led to believe, Kinsey Schofield.
I've had that question, and Harry's team is telling American outlets that the reason for this move is the king's health. But let's just look at a pattern here, and that pattern is having no empathy or compassion for the elderly when they are ill. When Prince Philip was in the hospital, Harry and Meghan had no problem sitting across from Oprah Winfrey and unleashing on this family. When the Queen was in the final days, weeks, and months of her life, guess who was filming their Netflix docuseries where they accused an entire country of racism? Harry and Meghan, unbothered by the Queen's illness, unbothered by the fact that she was an elderly woman who, you know, should have been enjoying her twilight years, but was fearing what was to come from Montecito, worried about this book, worried about this Netflix series. If we look at a pattern of behavior, that tells us they really have no empathy and compassion when it comes to the elderly and their illnesses. I think that this is all about Harry and Meghan maybe they are worried about King Charles passing away. They are worried that Prince William, under a King William reign, will strip them of their titles and their identity. All Harry identifies as is the Prince of England, he told that rugby podcast, which is not his title, and the Duke of Sussex. And a Prince or a King William reign jeopardizes that identity.
But how does coming back now with respect, let's play a game here. They come back now. Peter Blex is with me. He believes, and he's a better man than I'll ever be, he believes in forgiveness, and he says if they showed some contrition, maybe the British public. I personally think it's too far, but he's absolutely entitled to his opinion. And for me, the William thing's really interesting, because I have absolutely no doubt as I sit here that King William will strip him of it. I genuinely don't see any way back. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Why does coming back now make that less likely in your mind, Kinsey?
Because Meghan Markle's entire motto has been fake it till you make it. Perception is reality. And if they are in the United Kingdom and Harry's going to charity events left and right, even if it does appear to be a rival court, he still looks like a working royal. This looks like two people trying to kick the door down and force the half-in, half-out role. And while it might not be official under the British royal family, and King Charles, you know, sources close to King Charles have even told American outlets that when he was told about their move back to the United Kingdom, he told them, well, there's going to be no change in your status as working royals. You're going to remain private citizens. It's going to look like they're royal because of that proximity to the royal family.
And certainly in America. Peter Blex is with us. We can get a camera on him. I'm really interested. You've been listening to what Kinsey's been saying. You were talking earlier about forgiveness, and everybody has an opinion. What's your take on what Kinsey said, Pete?
I hear what Kinsey says, and I understand why so many people would be nodding their heads in agreement with what she says. There's another aspect here, though, that I think we haven't discussed this morning. Earl Spencer is soon to have a book published, or to write a book. And I, for one, cannot ever forget the image of Earl Spencer behind Diana's hearse with those two broken-hearted boys, as they were at the time, having lost their mother. I wonder if Earl Spencer is playing a role here in handing out a fig leaf, perhaps, to the King, perhaps to William. I wonder if that book is going to give us some kind of insight and maybe just be a step towards what the Sussexes hope will be reconciliation.
You are a very clever man, Peter, but he's not going to nod because he thinks he is. There's two things I'm going to say to that. The first thing that's just sprung into our minds here is maybe they're going to live at Althorpe. I don't think Earl Spencer, by the way, is going to do anything to benefit the King and William. No. I think he's going to basically say that the monarchy did nothing for his late sister. I think that's to be stirred up, and it might well be, I could be wrong, that this is just off the top. You might have alighted on something there, that Earl Spencer might not be giving an olive branch to the royal family, but maybe Althorpe's the answer, Kins. I don't know.
I mean, I had this conversation with Sally Bedell Smith, who is an amazing author, a royal author. Sally Bedell Smith and I were debating this earlier on the phone. You know, I said Cotswolds because I know that they had been seen around there over the summer. Maybe they would move over there. There's also really, we need to discuss the finances. Harry and Meghan are planning to keep the Montecito home. They're keeping their Portugal vacation home.
Where's the money?
Harry's got to pay the Daily Mail. It's my understanding he is desperate to settle the Senabale case that is coming for libel. That Senabale, his own charity, is suing him for libel, and that could be a financial exchange.
Maybe they sell. Maybe we're missing the point. Maybe they sell Montecito to settle the debt against the Daily Mail.
They've said that they're keeping Montecito. So Sally suggested, could it be Althorpe? Could that be what the solution is? Because it does seem like Earl Spencer is on a redemption tour. Yeah. He paints the connection between the eulogy and his new book, where he promised to take care of those boys. And he's admitted in recent years that he did not keep that promise. He wasn't in their lives growing up. He said it himself. Maybe this is him trying to redeem himself, feeling guilty over not, he got into a huge fight with Diana that summer.
I had a woman earlier who said, Jeremy Kyle, you've done things wrong in the past, you should look in the mirror. I absolutely put my hands up to that, as Peter Bletchley did. Earl Spencer is I mean, I'm sure that there are things that he probably has or hasn't admitted to. He was, is he a paragon of virtue? I don't know, but it is very interesting. Pete makes a really good point. There's an interesting analogy. They went to Althorpe, did they not? Didn't Harry go to Althorpe and they flew in from Portugal under the radar to see Diana's grave? And that might be the answer. And if that is the answer, then fantastic. But my whole point, Pete and Kinsey, is they have got such a long way to go to even be acknowledged, I think, by the British people. And there are millions of people in this country who won't buy it ever again, Pete. They won't.
Yeah, if the day after the wheels land in the UK and before they've unpacked their suitcases, Meghan is on Celebrity MasterChef UK, OK, that will be absolutely catastrophic. She will just be seen to be...
Can you not imagine that happening? Can't you see that happening, to sell the jam? Because I can.
Not as a part of a pathway to contrition and forgiveness. Absolutely not. I wonder who their team is, who guides them, who advises them. I think they need some wise old souls to put an arm around them, sit them down and say, this is how you're going to do it.
Jason in Worthing says the only reason Harry's coming back is Meghan. She craves the attention, even if it's bad. She is so self-centred. She craves, look at me, look at me. We don't need them here as we're fed up with the constant moaning. I've lost all respect. It's a bit harsh from Jason, to the king for allowing it. He can't say to his son, you can't come back to England. That's a ridiculous comment. What would annoy me is if I ever found out that the financial arrangements have been financed by the king, because if these two grifters want to make it, they're going to have to come back. But I don't see, Kins, and this is where there are so many questions for me. If you've got to quit America because you're skint and because actually every single door has closed, the only country where the doors might open in terms of interest is the United Kingdom. So are they coming back because of contrition or because the king's ill or because they're so low and on their backsides financially that the only place they feel they could make some money in whatever way is the United Kingdom? That struck me when I read it.
I think option number 3 is the obvious answer, but I also think Harry will be happy in the United Kingdom. He's been completely lost over the last few years and lonely. It is Meghan that's going to be miserable and going to make Prince Harry's life a living hell. And he might sit back and realize, what does it take to make this woman happy? I mean, I guess we should pat them on the back for lasting longer in America than they did last in the UK the first time around. Meghan was a working royal for what, 17 months before she quit her job? Think of all the jobs she has quit or left since then, between Spotify, Lemonada, Netflix. She abandoned Pearl. What happened to her 40 by 40 project? These people are perpetual quitters. And so, I mean, we can cheer them on all we want to regarding their future in the United Kingdom, but they don't have a very good track record when it comes to execution.
They certainly don't. Now, you are so busy because we created you and now the world demands your presence. You're off to do other interviews, but you will be back in half an hour. We love her. She is the voice of the Royals. Kinsey Schofield, thank you very much indeed. 6:45, 0344 499 1000. Dan, good morning.
Morning, JK. It's Dan from Kent. So we're all scratching our heads this morning, wondering why Harry and Meghan now want to come back to the UK. Well, think about it. The government have issued a booklet for all the new arrivals by rubber dinghy. And now the country is completely safe. Meghan can go shopping, she can let her kids out to play. All the villages across the country that are having migrant camps put upon them, they can all leave their doors unlocked. Everything's going to be okay. Even, I think the government should release, I don't know, a volume 2. So when we go shopping, we can have a booklet put on our shopping trolley. If you enter this shop and you buy some goods, make sure you pay for them. Don't shoplift, because that's wrong. Brilliant. That solves that crime. What a joke.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 7. So the Mexic return will dominate, as should this story. Yesterday, it turned out that the Home Office has produced a booklet for asylum seekers that basically says, we know you come from a different country and you have different value systems, so in this country you shouldn't rape women. Women are allowed to go to work. Women are allowed to have an opinion. It's also good not to abuse children. Just a document that would make most people's mouths drop. And on the day that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has freely admitted that her desire is to spread asylum housing more evenly and fairly across the UK. The question is simply this. If you know these unvetted males that you're letting in illegally into your country are dangerous to the women of Great Britain, why the bloody hell, Mr Burnham and your cabinet, are you not making sure that you stop the boats? Morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Lisa from Canterbury regarding the booklet from the Home Office. Well, first of all, the Home Office clearly accept the fact that this is going on. Otherwise, they wouldn't produce the document. Number two, it's obviously us lot that are paying for that document. And number three, who's going to read it? Because they don't speak a bloody word of English. It's an absolute, utter disgrace that the danger that they're putting to all women and children in this country. These people are never going to work. They have no intentions of working. It's absolutely disgraceful and it has to stop.
Thank you, Lisa. Peter Blexley's with me. She's spot on.
And it also goes on to explain to these people that should you commit a breach of these kind of things, it may affect your accommodation and benefits. Right? I mean, what an admission. So there you go.
Jesus
right?
God.
We're housing them, we're feeding them, we're clothing them. So many of them are monsters. And as that wonderful voice note just said, what she forgot to mention was men. Because let's remember one was convicted just a few days ago of raping a man. So women, children and men are potentially at danger from some of these people, all of whom should not be in this country.
And to prove the point, I don't know if you just tune into the show, but on the back of that appalling admission that the Home Office do this document, which tells us everything you need to know, a migrant, this was yesterday, who raped a sleeping woman has won the right to stay in the UK under, of course, the ECHR, sparking new calls to quit the treaty. We're done with that treaty. Get out of it. Hendrix Ekwin, 34, took 9 years to admit he he was to blame for the appalling attack. It was reported that he raped the woman. I mean, this is beyond me. Because of his sexual entitlement and tried to place responsibility of the rape with the victim. Judge yesterday ruled he could remain in the UK because he insisted he'd learnt his lesson.
Yep. Came here in 2009, OK, when he was 18. Get this, to join his mother and siblings in the northeast of England. So they've already come into this country. And then he goes on to rape this sleeping woman, denies all culpability for years and years and years. And then you have some stupid tribunal judge that says, no, it's absolutely fine. Your human rights outweigh the safety of the people of the UK. That's my words, not the judges. But that is what they're saying, basically. Your individual human rights of a rapist is more important than the safety of our loved ones, our women, our children. No, his is more important than ours.
You can't be surprised. I take you back to Epping last year, and I will forever go on about the pink ladies in this story because a migrant hotel, the Bell Hotel, right next to a secondary school, 2 girls have been sexually assaulted.
Yep.
The mothers who cared about their kids took to the streets and said, this is outrageous, and I salute, and I will always salute Epping Local Council. They went to the High Court, got an injunction to close the hotel, and I thought, do you know what, I think he's even I don't know who was the council, but fantastic. Good job, right? The government, Pete, if you remember, under Starmer, announced that they were challenging that decision because the rights of migrants were more important than that of the indigenous population. So none of this rubbish surprises me at all. Our government puts illegal, economic, whatever you want to call them, people who shouldn't be here, ahead of British people, ahead of alarm clock Brits. Fact.
Illegal immigrants, as I always call them when I'm posting on social media, it throws loads of the lefties into fits of apoplexy, but they are, because to enter the UK without leave to remain is a criminal offence under Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971. So, they are illegal immigrants at the point of entry, each and every one of them.
Why don't you show the same forgiveness to those migrants that you do to Harry and Meghan? Serious question.
They are committing a crime. I don't know that Harry and Meghan ever committed any crimes. These people are committing crimes and they're coming into the country illegally.
Yeah.
They have no right to be here.
And also, to know that our government, Pete, knows what these people are and tries to gaslight us to think, let's do the right thing. The right thing is to protect your own women and children, isn't it?
By refusing to take the necessary steps to stop this, as far as I am concerned, the government is complicit in the murder and rape of women of this country. Rest in peace, Siobhan.
I couldn't agree more. What a first hour. So Harry and Meghan are coming home. You and listen, I respect you for this. You believe in forgiveness, but you do say they're going to have to show some contrition. Do you think they'll show contrition? Yes or no?
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
I don't think they will in a million years.
For their children, I really hope they do.
Other people are saying, is the king iller than we actually know? No idea on that one. People are quite rightly asking, who's paying for the security he's argued about for 6 years? Because all of a sudden, he's back in the United Kingdom with kids and a wife who he said it wasn't safe to bring here. But a few months ago, the king, apparently the royal family, only blindsided, if you believe reports, only found out on Sunday. Be interesting to see how this story develops. Your thoughts on that as we head into the next hour. And also this appalling story Pete and I have just covered. Our own Home Office producing a booklet that basically says to illegals, this is how to treat women. And for all those do-gooders, right, all those people who go, it's very awful coming from Eritrea. All these people, really important point here, they have a different mindset. They have a different set of morality and values. That document absolutely proves that, and we've been saying it for months and months. If you bring unvetted men in from another country who don't have your same value system, you are asking for bloody trouble, aren't you?
A lot of the leftists say, oh, they're coming from war-torn countries.
France
there's a civil war going on in their home country. Well, do you know what, pal? Go back to your home country, pick a side and fight. Show some courage, show some valour.
I couldn't agree more. Or one of the 7 countries you have to travel through to get to Great Britain, which are not at war. Why don't you settle there? Oh, I know, because we wipe your ass more than anybody else. Peter Blexley, you are a legend. Have a wonderful weekend. QPR, stay top of the Championship.
Let's hope so.
Not for much longer. Better than West Ham. Thank you, Alarm Clock Brits. Right into the next hour, James Price. More from Kinsey. It's a royal fest this morning. 0344 499 1000. You text to 87222. Whenever you send a text, remember to start your message with the word talk. And the news at 7 is next on Breakfast.
His own Farage Fest last night, which was held in a paddock about 12 miles from where I am here at the pier, and that's where he delivered his victory speech before the count came in, and some view that as deeply controversial.
If you went to do a victory speech at the count, what you'd have had is 30 chumps there, all sort of screaming and shouting and heckling and, you know, making a big distraction on stage. And I think he's gone, that is not the image I want projected via national television, going out to the whole of Great Britain.
UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The entire city is being overwhelmed, and there are people who bear direct responsibility. Those responsible are the national government, led by Pedro Sanchez and his ministers, as well as Mr. Marlaska, and of course, the European institutions, which have completely failed in what's supposed to be the European Union's external border.
Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
Well, Morocco, of course, is hosting the next World Cup. I mean, are we suggesting that...
Oh, don't start me on the World Cup. We'll get
the country that is hosting the next World Cup is too unsafe. It's so unsafe.
Oh, great point.
People have to cross continents to come to Europe, and of course, and I have seen
tens of thousands are just invading the country, and what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. You know, people are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that 3-mile sweat law, however they got in, but nobody's seen anything like it. That will look good compared to what's going to happen to the United States. The biggest thing, the worst thing that Biden did is allowing 25 million people into our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, 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 welcome back. Just gone 7 o'clock, or welcome along. You would talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of free speech, and where you and your views, alarm clock Brits, matter. 0344 499 1000, my number. You can call, you can leave a voice note, you can text us 87222. You're waking up on Thursday the 20th of August. Well, you might be waking up to your GCSE results. That will be the day that you remember, August the 20th, 2026. You might, if you're part of Andy Burnham's new administration, wake up in Downing Street or somewhere nearby and go, oh, it's 1 month since we managed to completely and utterly shaft the United Kingdom and get to power from absolutely nothing. But for us, it's a monumental day because a Mexit bombshell overnight. Meg back, we're calling it. Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain just 6 years after trashing almost everything about the royal family and indeed the United Kingdom. Having sold their souls, these two grifters have run out of money, it seems, and are heading back to the United Kingdom to live. Their kids are going to go to school here, but don't fret, pets. Really? It won't be a royal residence. They're not going to be working royals. They're going to make their own living. Is she selling jam in Lidl? I mean, it could happen. Let's be honest. She could be selling jam in Lidl. There's a lot of serious questions to this, and there's a lot of anger. What about the security issue for 6 years you argued the toss about? What about the fact that, I mean, it's suddenly what, your kids are going to be safe and your wife? What, you've accepted that? You're paying for it? Is there a secret deal? We're told the royals didn't know till Sunday. And I suspect apoplectically reacted to by the Waleses. The finances. Other people are saying, is the king iller than people say? I've no idea. But one thing I do know is, and I don't care who this upsets, I don't believe a damn word that comes out of either of their mouths. This was Prince Harry merely a few months ago.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
Robin Porthcawl goes further and says, Jez, do you think they'll get universal credit now they're not working? We'll say a very good morning. Again, we're going to cross stateside because this lady is... Her finger has been on every button across the night. Brilliant. Kinsey Schofield, hello, good morning.
Hi, that is true. They are unemployed.
But people have said to me, oh, you know, it's great, he's back in the United Kingdom and his kids are here. The truth of the matter is these two's oxygen, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just hers, is attention. Do they have any idea, do you think, how loathed people feel about the millions because of the way they treated the Duke of Edinburgh? You said it half an hour ago, the Queen. And that's the reason that I believe that William has an issue here. He was fine.
And his wife, JK, and his wife.
Yeah, I just think it's extraordinary, and I think that these two grifters have no idea what the United Kingdom thinks of them.
It's my understanding, too, that Harry was so uplifted by the small crowds that showed up for him when he was in the UK in July. You know, he went home and reported to Meghan. People were asking about her. People were cheering for him. That's because sane people don't show up for people they don't like. You know what? People that don't like you aren't going to show up where you're at. You know, he does have a small base of supporters.
Yep.
And I think that some of these people are dangerous to the monarchy because they're angry and believe that there are royal racists within the fold because, to your point, we can't believe anything that these two say. They're not reliable narrators. And so the people that do like Harry and Meghan are fiercely protective of them and hateful and harassing the working royals because they believe Harry and Meghan's initial story, which was that Archie didn't get a title because of how he could potentially look, what his skin color could be, Meghan said, and that there were whispers about what he was going to look like before he was born, and all of the other things that they did an entire 6-hour Netflix docuseries where they accused the United Kingdom of racism, and they accused Megxit of being a racist term. And I mean, it's just been chaos over the last 6 years. So the fact that they think that everything's going to be hunky-dory, it tells you how delusional these two people are.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. We talk about security. He's been arguing the toss for 6 years, lost that case, of course, on several occasions. Who's going to pay for it? We talk about the finances. Patently, the American dream has dried up. They've got the $11 million house in Montecito in California, or allegedly a bit of a place in a rather posh area in Portugal. Who's paying for this? There will be public outrage. I can totally tell you, if it turns out that the royal family are financing this, there will be. I don't believe they will. We believe, from what we're told, that the king's been completely blindsided by this information.
Yeah, and I believe that to be true, that the king found out on Sunday, and it sounds like it was a phone call made on Sunday, and the king told him, don't expect to come back as a working royal. I'm happy to see you privately and personally, but from a standpoint of you doing the half in, half out, our opinion hasn't changed about that. But this looks like half in, half out. It looks like Harry and Meghan making their dreams come true. And that's what's going to upset a lot of people. The king needs to be more firm. He needs to put his foot down. He needs to strip them of their titles.
He's not known to be like that, though, is he, sweetheart?
No.
Let's be honest.
No.
He's not known to be like that. And then you get, so are they playing him? Are they using the fact? Or am I just being cynical and it's the dad who wants to be reunited? Here's a few questions. Who's paying for their education for the kids? Because they won't be going to a state school. And who's paying for the security that looks after the kids who are going to a certain school? Who's going to pay the whole thing? We talked about this half an hour ago. If you're just tuning into the show, there was a story yesterday or a couple of days ago that Earl Spencer, the late Diana's brother, who of course owns and runs Althorpe, is about to write a book, or is about to publish a book, saying his side of the story. From the fallout of Diana's death and everything that happened. Somebody said, I think it was Peter Blexley, maybe they're heading to Althorpe. Maybe that's an olive branch. We have no idea. But, I mean, this is an extraordinary revelation. And for me, it comes down to one thing. I got the distinct impression they hated this country, thought this country was racist, thought this country was not the sort of place they wanted to bring up. They didn't want to be part of the royal family. They found it too suffocating. And now, because they're on their backsides, they're crawling back to us. 2 more economic migrants looking for a way out.
Well, you mentioned a great line, JK. You mentioned school. I would challenge you to go find the video of Meghan Markle saying, we're not going to send our kids to school in the United Kingdom where they're going to be papped day in and day out as they are arriving.
Can you find that one of you, please? Oh, my God. Is that true? See, I just don't buy it, man.
Because that was never going to happen anyway. I mean, you'll watch the way that Prince George enters Eton. There will be one day, and honestly, Eton's a different scenario because this is a young man going into a school that's going to change his life. So we wouldn't typically do this for a younger child, but they'll take pictures of him on day one, and then they're going to leave him alone. They're going to respect his privacy. And that's the way it works. We don't see pictures of Princess, Charlotte and Prince Louis and Prince George day in and day out. That's not the reality, Meghan.
I completely get it. And then it begs the question, right? Then if you're like you and me and you've followed this for years, this is a woman who would stand up one day and say, social media is so intrusive and it harms children, the content, and the next day she's putting pictures of her kids on Instagram. I've never understood that. There doesn't seem any consistency, and a lot of it comes down, I think, to attention, public attention, attention-seeking. It'll be fascinating to see how this develops. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the Wales' house. I just want to finish with this. A lot of people say that he's come back because his dad's ill, or because cynically they're trying to get in before the father passes and William takes over. I can't see the Wales ever exceeding on this. I met him twice. I know that Prince William, right, his grandmother, the institution, royalty, is absolutely central to every part of his being. And when his brother showed that not to be central, it's nothing more than that. It's that. He believes he let the royal family down. I don't think it'll ever work in any which way.
I just feel so much sympathy for Prince William, because imagine how lonely he was when Prince Philip died.
Yep.
Then Queen Elizabeth dies. Then he has to keep the secret that his father has cancer. Shortly after that, he finds out his wife has cancer. He has to keep that secret. He also has to navigate how to tell his small children. Imagine how lonely that period of his life was. On top of all of that, he's had to take on Harry's responsibilities because Harry has quit his job in the United Kingdom, and he's run off to find freedom in California. William has had a very difficult 6 years, and I don't blame him if he refuses to forgive his brother, because I don't think his brother deserves forgiveness.
I'm with you. Listen, you've been amazing. You've been at it all night. That didn't sound right, but I know what I meant. And thank you. And just get some sleep, because we'll need you again tomorrow. You're a legend. Thank you indeed. Just check out everything. Host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, the legend that is Kinsey Schofield. Thank you, my darling. 7:15. Everybody is talking about that. The other news story that everybody is quite rightly raging about this morning. It transpired yesterday that the Home Office actually gives illegal migrants, or as the left would call asylum seekers, a booklet. And in this booklet, without any this is all factual, ladies and gentlemen. It basically says to men coming to this country, you might not understand the way we are here, but women are allowed to vote and get a job. They can decide what they want to wear. It's also not a good idea to rape them, because it's not your entitlement. And also children. There's a diagram, little children. A good idea not to abuse them. We don't do that in this country. If there is ever in my life definitive proof that these unvetted men are a danger to this country, it is this document. And yet, on the very day this document finds itself out in the public eye, Shabana Mahmood, right, Times, page 1, where's my Times? Look at this. It's brilliant, right? Mahmood. Wealthy areas must take their fair share of asylum seekers. No, Mahmood. What? You are then saying you're going to spread fairly more dangerous men who bring danger to women, because your own document says they don't know how to behave in a civilised society. So they're not coming from a war-torn country, because they're crossing 7 countries. They're not bringing their wives and children. They're coming here to screw us financially, and they are a danger to our women and children. Claire, good morning.
Listening to what you're saying this morning, and also about the dispersal of the migrants, as a female, it's a huge, huge concern. I've had criminality affect my life in a very, very bad way. And this leaves me with gut-wrenching fear in the knowledge that these people are being dispersed, to use the Prime Minister's word, all around the country, scattered like confetti. There's no celebration happening where this is concerned. This seems like absolute societal suicide. And again, that's putting it in a way that's polite, which of course as Brits we tend to be. There's only so much politeness the Brits will be prepared to put up with, and I can actually feel it, especially with all the conversations I'm having. I operate a business and I'm hearing what people are saying even when they're not talking to me directly, and it's not good out there. This PM has no mandate as far as I'm concerned. He's an illegitimate PM and he's acting like the Mayor of Britain. He's already woefully inadequate, and I fear for what is to come.
Powerful. 7:15. We're live across the UK. This is Jeremy Cullen Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, the home of You, the Alarm Clock Brits. What you want to talk about? Harry and Meghan, you want to talk about this disgusting revelation from the Home Office this morning? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We were going to include my next guest from 7 o'clock, but his actual phrase was, which is brilliant, because he messaged me. He actually said, beer soon, though I can wash away the taste of having to talk about the Sussexes. James Price, former government advisor, good morning, dear boy.
Hello, my dear old thing. I think I also emailed your producer saying I would rather stick pins in my eyes, but here we are, just to be with you, mate.
I don't want to talk about Harry and Meghan to you. I want to talk about this disgusting... I cannot, and yesterday, did you see the show yesterday? You probably didn't. So I interviewed a Labour MP. Sam Rushworth, a Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, and I try very hard to give all sides on this show. And he let out, in the midst of a conversation, that one of the reasons we should indeed accept as many migrants as possible is because, well, AN1 war-torn was important, and that, you know, a lot of it was down to the fact that a majority of them spoke English. I tried to point out that we spend millions on translators, but most of all, we'd colonised the world, and we owed it to the world. And I said the cat's out of the bag. On a serious note, JP, you're married, and I'm sure, you know, like a lot of people, you read this morning and you think, what the hell? Front page of the Express, front page of the Mail. Don't rape or beat up women when in Britain. This is a Home Office document that is handed out to migrants to tell them how to avoid committing sex crimes in Britain. This on the day that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and I quote, says, I will spread asylum housing more fairly across the UK. JP, they are knowingly letting people who have no respect for women to come into our country illegally. It's an outrage, man.
Hang on, I'm just going to get my pencil to make a note of this. So we're not supposed to hit women, right? OK, that is a useful thing. It's just absolutely insane, the idea that you have to say this thing to these people coming into the country. How many people talk about, you know, awful lad culture when it comes to beer-swilling rugby clubs and all the rest of it, and yet are voting for open borders to let these people in? I think just yesterday there was an interview someone did with a bloke who's trying to break into Britain, who is from Somalia, and in his very charming broken English, he said, I just want to come to, and then used the F word, because you now have that the gangs who are in charge of the small boats, and again, small boat, not really the right word, because they're massive now, and the biggest one last week had, what, 260 odd people.
Ridiculous.
Those gangs, they get their phones and they get up videos of young women dressed in not a huge amount, but which is totally their right in this country, on nights out, tottering around in heels, getting drunk and having a good time, and say, see, pay us to break you into this country and you will be free to have out all of these young women. That is an actual advertising marketing tactic that the gangs use on these people.
I mean, I've actually been handed the document. The line's not great, but it's not an issue. Consent, but look, I mean, this is beyond JP. Consent means both people freely agree to sexual contact. In the UK, the law is clear and strict. Both people must agree to sex. They must say yes freely, without threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind at any time, even if they said yes before. If someone is asleep, drunk, or unable to respond, they cannot consent. Which brings me to the even worse story this morning, which sends me through the edge. Right? On the day that Mahmood says, let's spread asylum seekers more evenly, on the day we discover that this Home Office document says, by the way, guys, this is not the way to behave. Where you've come from is slightly misogynistic, but you're going to do it anyway. A migrant, I mean, you must have heard this already. I can't. A migrant who raped a sleeping woman yesterday won the right to stay in the United Kingdom. Hendricks Ekwen, 34, took 9 years, JB, to admit that he was to blame for the appalling attack. It was reported that he raped the woman because of his sexual entitlement and tried to place responsibility with her. Yesterday, some total arse of a judge said he can remain in the United Kingdom because I believe after 9 years he's learnt the lesson. We can just go, my God, but it is becoming embarrassing and wrong and morally indefensible, these judges. I don't understand it, mate. I really don't.
I'm with you, and a reckoning is going to come, and this is unfortunate because we are, the legal system is something that has for a long time been one of the most respected in the world, and whether it's the judges interpreting this in these awful ways, because the judges are often also members of the migration panels and things like that, or whether it's the fact that politicians haven't changed the law in order to tighten up all of these sentences. You know, you had last week or the week before the former Tory minister Edwina Curry pointing out, I hope she was being tongue-in-cheek, that we would start to need to put brothels near the asylum centres. Which is a bad enough idea, but I think what she was probably trying to do was alluding to the fact that these young men will have all these urges.
Stop the bloody boats and stop them coming here. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yes, then we see a story, and I'm only laughing because it's so awful. Yeah. We see a story that an Eritrean man broke into the country and raped an old male pensioner outside a church. Well, brothels ain't going to cover that, so are we going to have to put retirement homes outside the asylum hotels as well? This is how farcical this stuff is, Jez. And look, Andy Burnham and Shabana Mahmood, they say that it's good that these people are coming and that we're all going to have to take our fair share. Now, there are 40 local authorities that haven't yet been blessed with these future doctors and engineers and all the rest of it. And one of them is, by the way, the leafy Cotswolds. So anybody who's listening like me from the Cotswolds, we don't yet have these wonderful future engineers in the Cotswolds district, but they will be coming soon, according to Andy Burnham.
I hope Harry and Meghan aren't considering the Cotswolds then.
Well, quite. Exactly right. They better watch out. They better hope they get some kind of security. What about if you're listening today in Sevenoaks, or in Tunbridge Wells, or in Woking, or in West Devon, or in South Cambridgeshire, or Cambridge, or the Derbyshire Dales, or Hertfordshire, or Epsom? I could go on. These are all places that have not yet experienced the enriching diversity of illegal men breaking into the country who need to be told that it's wrong to rape people. But don't worry. Thanks to Andy Burnham, they're coming soon to a district council near you.
I did something on this show a couple of weeks ago, and I had Harry Redknapp on, and we both live around the Bournemouth area, right, without going into detail. And I said, and I make no apology for this, it went absolutely viral, and he completely agreed with me. I hadn't been to Bournemouth for 10 years. I had to take my son to his theory driving test the other day. Mate, I swear to God, and I've done this show, tens of them walking up and down the street, smoking, leering at women, drinking. You're absolutely full of I could not believe what Bournemouth had come. People were saying, that's so unfair, but everybody in Bournemouth went, no, you're absolutely right. The reality of this is not a racist comment. This is not disrespectful. This is factual. You have a government that knows to its core that dangerous, unvetted men who have no value system to women are running amok around this country, and you are prepared to spread them more evenly. I thought the first job of any government, buddy, you would know this, you've worked in government, is to protect your nation from a defence point of view and your people from a safety point of view. I can absolutely say to this government, they are not protecting the women and children of this country in any which way at all.
You're absolutely right. And what scares me about this is that people will increasingly, and probably sadly rightly at this point, start to realise that the state is no longer capable, or even willing at this point, of keeping people safe. And what happens when lots of people all across the country start, very upsettingly, and I'm not endorsing this, coming to the conclusion that they will need to take alternative measures to keep themselves safe. You see this in Crowborough already, where they've been plonked one of these hotels full of these people, and the people of Crowborough are so scared that they have started organising, essentially marching up and down during school opening and closing times, because there have been so many concerns about what will happen to school kids on the way. We've seen lots of examples of that. That will start to spread. You've seen the obviously unacceptable people trying to set fire to various asylum hotels and things like that. That's actually been happening in the Republic of Ireland, but it's not been widely reported. And again, that is obviously totally wrong, and you don't want to lose any moral high ground and commit crimes and all the rest of it. Nevertheless, people are and this is just obviously true, they're starting to feel that that is what they need to do in order to protect themselves. And if you start to lose, this is what the sociologist Max Weber said, that the state had the monopoly on the legitimate use of violence. That was that's the now established academic rubric that defines what a state is. It's the one organisation that is allowed always to use violence, whether that's to keep people safe or to enforce the law or whatever else it may be. And if people start to feel that the state is losing that, and let's remember, of course, that almost 3 times as many people have now come over in small boats as we have regular members of the British Army, for God's sake, what conclusion are people going to start to come to, and what effect is that going to have on the social fabric and on the idea that Britain is a safe and prosperous country to raise your children, to start a business, to invest in, to come on holiday, to frankly survive through the day?
Mate, I'd have you on all time. You're the best by a mile. We really appreciate it as ever. The brilliant James Price. Thank you, my friend. 7:25. Here's something for you. Michelle in Altrincham. I'm really angry, Jez. How the bloody hell are these migrants supposed to understand the booklet if they don't need to speak English? Oh, of course, interpreters, even more cost to the taxpayer. I am sick to death of what this country's become. To Derbyshire. Joanna, good morning.
Good morning, Jessa. How you doing?
I'm all right, my love. Couple of minutes. What you got for me?
I read the leaflet last night because I'm waiting to keep having my hip operation put back further and further. And I read it in great detail and had a discussion with a friend of mine in America. And he says the best thing we should do is go and challenge the UNHCR and do it from a girl and woman perspective and see what answer they come back with.
I mean, listen, whatever works. I mean, I'd love to have a Prime Minister or a party in charge that would look at the ECHR and go, I'm not listening to the BS about how Russia and Belarus are the only people who left. I need to do what's right for the people of my country. So I'm going to leave it. But rather than leave it, I'm going to ignore it. And I'm going to instruct judges who are patently left-wing to use their heads instead of their backsides and not decide that a man who thinks it's OK to rape a sleeping woman should be allowed to stay for learning his lesson. Joanne, thank you very much indeed. Jay, good morning.
I just want to say to people listening to about this, they've handed out this booklet. I've seen online what the booklet from the Home Office is saying, you know, you can't do paedophilia and touch girls and rape girls and domestically beat women and girls and all this stuff and touch children. Like, the fact they're handing these out to these men, what are the figures that no one knows of it going on? We all hear of all these different things going on near HMOs, and no wonder people are kicking off in these local areas when they're planting these people near schools and they're unsupervised.
We have to stand up to the French. We have to be much tougher. We have to stop. I mean, it is the pull factor is huge, but even without the pull factor, there are going to be people who, you know, want to come across that bit of ocean and come to us. And I just think, once again, you know, we do a lot of talking about it, and Andy Burnham, every time he's interviewed, says, oh yes, but there's fewer boats coming. There may be fewer boats coming, but they're actually bigger boats and they're holding just as many people. I think the money we're giving to France is unbelievably big for what they're doing for us.
Okay. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 7:30 with Talk. Breakfast, the home of common sense, and of course the home of the alarm clock. Brit, thank you for tuning in this morning. That Mexit bombshell. Meg back. They're coming back, Harry and Meghan, back to the United Kingdom after 6 years away, slagging us off, calling us racist, destroying the royal family, grifting, making money out of the misery of what they caused. But they're coming back now, despite the fact he can't get any security. He doesn't like Britain. It's going to be in a non-royal residence. The kids already enrolled in a school, apparently, from September. Many questions are asked. Who's paying for the security? Who's paying for the house? Who's paying for the kids' education? Is it all a ruse to get into the King's good books? Is he iller than we thought? How will the Waleses react? It's an astonishing story. I wouldn't buy a word that either of them say, but you'll call me cynical. Morning, Hev.
Good morning, Jezzo. It's Head from Kent. Yeah, forgiveness is a wonderful thing, so long as everybody plays the same game. And, you know, as far as the grifters are concerned, Ginger Minge, oh no, Ginger Minge, Ginger Winge, oops, sorry, faux pas. I can't. No, they're just out for themselves. I mean, they know that the king isn't well, and they will be here until they got his money or some money or whatever, and then they're going to clear off to somewhere else. Don't trust them as far as I can spit. Believe me, I can't spit very far.
I still haven't recovered from the ginger. Anyway, listen, your opinions and thoughts on Harry and Meghan, always welcome on the show. We're here until 10 o'clock. The other big news story of the day, which is utterly disgusting. I don't care where you come from or what you think. There is... You can be one of those people who thinks that we should, you know, give more of a chance to the good people of across the water. Personally, I think that too many people are allowed into this country, right, to take advantage of systems and finances that we don't have and that are creaking. I don't buy the war-torn country BS of the left, because you have to cross 7 safe countries from Eritrea and Afghanistan. I don't buy what that Labour MP said yesterday, that it's all about colonisation, because I don't remember us colonising Eritrea or Afghanistan. I believe we're seen as the softest answer, the easiest answer. I don't buy the Labour MP who said it's all because they speak English, because we spent 80 million quid last year on interpreters. So let's get factually right. The fact is the United Kingdom wipes the backside of people wanting to come here. That is a fact. Yesterday, Kev did it brilliantly. I was driving and listening. We find this Home Office document. I mean, I have it in front of me. It is the most embarrassing, disgusting thing I think I've seen in a long time. It is a booklet that tells asylum seekers not to rape women and not to abuse kids. Listen to this. In the UK, the law is clear and strict. Both people must agree to sexual contact of any kind. This means both people must say yes, freely, without threat. Someone can change their mind at any time, even if they've said yes before. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. So you've got a government that is freely handing that out, which tells me absolutely everything, that they know what the danger these people are to the indigenous population. And that, and honestly, this leaves me cold. Yesterday, just to prove a point, a migrant from Italy who raped a sleeping woman 9 years ago because he thought it was his right, tried to blame her, went to court and the judge said, it's all right, mate, you can stay here, you've learnt your lesson. This country is screwed. Kevin Foster used to be, well, he's the former immigration minister, so one would assume from that he used to be the immigration minister. Good morning, Kevin, how are you?
Not too bad, Jeremy. Good to be on the show again.
I have moments where people go, Kyle's going to lose it. This document is living and definitive proof that this country is in serious, serious trouble. The government are giving this out, basically saying to men from other cultures who have other value sets, by the way, here women can work and vote, and it's a good idea not to rape them. This lays bare the lies behind Labour's immigration policy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Jeremy, it's this sort of thing that you can imagine the meeting at the Home Office where sat round a table and they said, oh, there's these concerns about, you know, single men and potential sexual assault. And someone in that says, I've got a great idea. Why don't we give them some information? Tell them what our views are. Yeah, let's give them a leaflet. First, the idea that that's going to make any difference whatsoever. You know, you can imagine most men being handed this. It's probably going to be like a little scan and throw in the bin. And it's amazing how some people, sometimes their English language ability can improve when it's in their interest, but suddenly they need an interpreter when it isn't in their interest to say that they are able to speak English, or they suddenly want to try and pretend they don't understand something. But I suspect, you know, whoever thought of this, because we need to sort of educate them about consent. The challenge I always think, the always thing I always used to have in my mind is, hang on, if they were hit on by another man, they'd quickly understand the principles of consent, and they'd understand them very, very quickly indeed. But when it comes to younger women, they don't seem to be able to understand it at all. And also what's quite chilling about this as well is, yes, it does say what the law is around age of consent, which is 16. But it doesn't seem to go on to really make the point that 16 and 17-year-olds are actually still children legally. They are not adults in this country. So that is deeply, so particularly if you think about some of the behaviours that may encourage towards 16 and 17-year-olds who are going to, you know, in many cases, actually still be at school. So it's a really concerning one, but it all brings us back to the need to actually get on and try and find solutions to this. And I can imagine the reaction of Home Office ministers will be the same as yours and mine, that when they're hearing about someone who had raped someone and was due to be put back to Italy, by the way, actually, you know, we're not talking about sending them back to some sort of war-torn hellhole. We're sending them back to Italy, part of the EU, modern democracy, signed up to the ECHR. And then a judge decides they want to go home feeling they've done good today, having listened to what really has to be an absolute load of nonsense and naive. And you could, that's one of the few times I can have, having done what I've done, some sympathy with Home Office ministers on that sort of case, that you're trying to get rid of dangers to the public, and then you find a judge do that.
Can I ask you a question? You were an immigration minister, and this isn't me pointing the finger at anybody, because I sit here most days in almost total disbelief as to the lack of intelligence, will, gumption, desire, whatever you want to talk. I hear politicians, oh, we want to do it, we want to stop the boat, smash the gangs, we'll do it. Do you regret, as the immigration minister, that your government didn't actually leave the ECHR 10 or 15 years ago? Because when I started doing this, everybody was saying, oh, we can't do that because Belarus and Russia did that, and what awful states they are. But there are European countries now that are going ahead and just thinking, sod it. If it was me, I would leave and then deal with the consequences. And you know the second thing I'd do? I'd rip all those judges out and I'd start again with people who've got a common sense approach. I cannot in my mind, that case yesterday, you know, the Italy one you're talking about, what planet does that judge come from? Do you not want to say to a judge like that, Kev? What was that? What would have happened if that was your daughter? Your daughter. It's unbelievable to me, mate. There's no... We've all got to a point where we almost accept the inevitability of this appalling stupidity. It's beyond me. Beyond me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. Should we have gone further on the ECHR? Absolutely. And in terms of the idea that we'd suddenly become like Belarus, that's the argument that's been being thrown around by people like the Lib Dems, who just opposed enforcing the border. I do wish we'd gone further with it, and not say not just that, but actually some other parts of international law, like the Statelessness Convention, which is being roundly abused by people who are part of the grooming gangs, who, you know, a convention designed to deal with a situation like Otto Frank, a German war veteran being stripped of his citizenship in his own country, now being used by a mass rapist who just doesn't want to be deported back to the country of his birth. You know, that's the sort of way international law's gone from its original intention in the late 40s and early 1950s to some of what we're seeing today. And as for the courts, I think there's already proposals on the table to abolish the immigration tribunals. When you look into the background of many of the judges that sit there, it's impossible not to conclude that they're effectively taking their political views into the courtroom and producing some absolutely ridiculous judgments. You know, we all remember the chicken nuggets one, the Ukraine scheme that suddenly you could come from Gaza because a judge decided that that was something that should be done, and numerous other rather daft examples. And that's where, you know, the Home Office can get really frustrated. They're trying to get rid of people, in many cases, in these cases, to countries that are actually perfectly democratic. You know, Italy was the one we've had today. Albania is another one that's regularly there's issues with the courts about removing people back to, even though we have a route. And that's before you even get on to the fact that the UK isn't following at the moment what Germany's doing, which is returning people directly back to Kabul if they've committed.
But you see, this is my point. Maybe I'm an egotistical idiot. Maybe you're going to tell me I'm stupid. So I'm the Prime Minister this morning, right, and I've got a 185-seat majority, and I read stories like this about the Italian migrant. I'm going straight to the House of Commons and I'm going to instigate emergency legislation like I would about PC Harper's killers. I don't give a toss about the ECHR or lawyers. I'm the Prime Minister of this country. I don't care about the civil service telling me about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with my majority, and I'll take the flack that comes my way from the left. Why have we not got... We had that with the lady behind your left shoulder, Margaret Thatcher. We had that with the man behind your right shoulder, Winston Churchill. We have no politicians with a conviction to say, I don't care if it might be unpopular with a certain section. I know in my heart what's right, and I'm going to damn well do it. Fact.
Yeah, and Jeremy, if he did something like that, I suspect he'd have both the Conservative Party and Reform in the lobby with him to do so, to deal with some of his left-wingers. Yeah. And this is the choice Andy Burnham's going to have to make at some point. What is his priority? Now, there's some floating in the media today that they're re-looking at a Rwanda-style arrangement.
Oh, yeah, but let me read this out for people. That's right. Apparently, Mahmoud is looking at a Rwanda-style scheme where we would send failed asylum seekers to a third country. So why the bloody hell did they oppose Rwanda then?
Absolutely. Although it must be noted that Rwanda also covered relocating of people who did have an asylum claim as well. It wasn't just people who'd failed, partly to deal with the fact that actually, you have come from a safe and democratic France. France is a EU member, all the things that someone on the left seem to think we should be as well. France is the place that's already that country. So why you need to escape from there is beyond anyone. You're doing it because you want to game the asylum system here instead. So no, there is a choice to be made. And what's interesting is also, though, I do think the government is preparing something. And the reason why I say this is that what James said about the idea that they're going to accommodate people more fairly across the country. Now, you can actually read a bit of code words to that, which is the fact that I always remember my friend Jonathan Gullis, who used to speak about how, he'd get lots of lectures from people like the SNP about welcoming refugees and asylum seekers. Meanwhile, their constituencies would refuse to be housing them, while Stoke-on-Trent was part of a dispersal scheme, and make the point that, you seem to say refugees are welcome here, just not here in my constituency. We also saw that in Crowborough with a deputy leader of the Green Party. And some of the places that James reeled off, Cotswolds, Tunbridge Wells, they've all happily voted for Liberal Democrat MPs who, but it's anathema to leave the ECHR. They're busy defending a lot of these conventions and will happily rush to defend in the past the right of people to come to this country to abuse our asylum system. I think there is a message starting to go out to Labour MPs and some of those voters that, OK, you can't just vote for Sunderland and the big cities to have this problem and so you can feel all nice and virtuous whilst not affected yourself. And it does say to me that perhaps there is something coming down the track where, Andy Burnham represents Makerfield, very different constituency to Keir Starmer's Holborn and St Pancras, Wigan, place like that. I've seen the raw end of migration issues, not a place that's filled more with sort of champagne socialism. Maybe there is something coming, but if he brings something bold forward, like leaving the ECHR on that, I suspect he'll have the Conservative Party and almost certainly Reform as well in the lobby with him. But if he wants to carry on just sort of sitting on the fence, hoping that things will sort themselves out, then sadly that's going to be an absolute disaster for our country and ultimately a disaster for him politically.
Good man, great to have you on, Kev. It really is always. Former Immigration Minister. Thank you, Kevin Foster, Conservative MP, ex for Torbay. Good pictures on the wall as well. Churchill and Maggie, 7:45. Let's go to London. Felicity, couple of minutes. Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. But actually what I phoned in about was because I tend to listen to you on record, streaming, so that I can hear all that you said in the day. And I was watching Peter Bletchley, and I absolutely am 100% behind him. I thought it was so powerful that he gave his own story and said he was awful. Fractured families are really, really painful. And I absolutely get how awful it must be for the King, for Prince William, for all of the family. But it just is too painful to have fractured families. And I have prayed for fractured families and, in fact, recently for the Kings, because so help me to have all of that out in not just the publicity of this country, the whole world must be absolutely agonising.
So you would forgive Harry and Meghan, is what you're saying, Felicity, yeah?
Well, to tell you the truth, I never found it so hard to forgive Harry. It bothers me that the two princes who have actually fought for this country, who have fought for their mother and their grandmother, are the ones who seem to be dumped on the most. And even when they've deserved it, a lot of people have made a lot of money out of all these column inches. And I didn't find it so hard for Harry. I was brought up myself because I brought up short because I don't find it so easy to forgive Meghan. But Mr. Bletchley is entirely right. I really, really hope that there is something genuine for her as well, and that she can actually contact her father. And perhaps, she seems to have a real problem with families. It would be so good if her family also could find the way back. I know it sounds terribly, terribly idealistic.
No, it doesn't. Listen, I'll tell you what, my only problem is it's important that we get all sides. and I think Peter alluded to this, there needs contrition to be shown. We will wait and see. Personally, I don't think that the two of them could spell the word, let alone show it, but we'll see. Felicity in London, thank you so much indeed. Two big stories today. Meg back. They're coming back, Harry and Meghan. That's got you going, as has this government leaflet that says to illegal immigrant men, it's a good idea not to rape women or abuse children in the United Kingdom. So we're telling them because we know how dangerous they are. What a nightmare. Laura, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Mr. Blexley, sorry. It's Colin here, truck driver from Blackburn. Hey, I'm on my way down to Portugal. I don't know where Harry and Meghan's place is down here, but you need a few bob to be living down here. Anyway, by and by, Harry, I would say, give him a do. Give him a do. He's just a puppet on a string anyway. It's that Meghan. It's poison. They won't be in country long anyway because she won't be able to whack it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Could I just point out that that voice note was not Laura, it was a bloke. Is this Laura now? No, she's gone. It was wrongly labelled. I apologise for the complete and utter farce that is the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. I'm joking. 0344 499 1000. So many things to talk about, namely Meg back and this appalling document. Take two on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Laura, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Great show. Regarding this 9-page A5 document that they've produced, I could not believe what I was reading. First of all, if people need to be told how to behave in our country, they have no right being here. And the second point is that actually this is just an arse covering venture on behalf of the Home Office, isn't it? Oh, well, we told them not to, so we've got our backsides covered. What a shocking, disgraceful state of affairs this really, really is. And the powers that be, I use that term loosely, should hang their heads in shame. What an utter disgrace.
Couldn't agree more, Laura. 10 to 8 0344 499 1000. Your calls, your voice notes, always welcome. Text to 87222. Let's say good morning. Top man, former Labour MP, now Reform defector Simon Danshut. Welcome to breakfast.
Good to join you, Jeremy.
You all right, my friend?
I am indeed, yeah, I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, we've talked about quite a lot of stuff that most people find almost impossible to even believe is happening. This document, Simon, I'm not going to bore you with Harry and Meghan. Let's talk about this document. We've a situation in this country where we seemingly offer so much to illegal migrants. We make excuses for them committing crimes. We give them stuff that we don't give our indigenous population. It's got to a point where the British public are seriously believing that there's no fairness. And we wake up to this document that basically freely lays bare, does it not, entirely what the government know and what they're prepared to hide. This government document, I mean, I've read it so many times, you know, consequential sex. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. On the day that Shabana Mahmood says, I'm going to spread asylum seekers more fairly, on the day the bloody story about the migrant from Italy who raped a sleeping woman's allowed to stay because the judge says, oh, he's learnt his lesson, it lays bare that this government knows they're putting the British women and children in a risky situation, in a dangerous situation, man. It's unprecedented to me, seriously.
This document is an admission by the Labour government that illegal immigrants come over here and abuse children and rape young women. I mean, it's an admission that they accept that this is what's happening. And the bigger point as well to this is that, and it's a subtle change by Burnham's government, I think it's an attempt to normalise illegal immigration in this country. So you've got him wanting to spread illegal immigrants all over the country to middle-class areas as well. And now we're seeing an attempt by the Home Office to try and educate these illegal immigrants so that they can play a more normal role in our society. That's what they're attempting to do. So I think it's a subtle change in terms of how Burnham sees illegal immigration. He believes in open borders. That's the reality of it.
I find it almost astonishing. And actually, I do go home sometimes at night and think, how do I put this in a better way? Listen to this, Pammy. The migrant document, Jez, is obscene. It's an utter insult to the women of the United Kingdom. How come nobody, Si, you've worked in government, how come nobody goes, do you know what? That is an absolute own goal. That lays bare entirely what we know to be the truth. Why don't we front up and tell the people of Great Britain we can't control it, these people are dangerous. More than that, why don't we just stop the bloody boats? Because as caller after caller has said this morning, mate, and we're not condoning anything. Just make that point before the left jump on me. The unfairness and the feeling of anger, it is not going away. It is growing and it is building.
Absolutely. And you made the point earlier in the programme, Andy Burnham has a majority of 185. He could easily stop the boats. He could take some decisive action. He could come out of the European Convention on Human Rights. We are 2.5 years, halfway through a Labour government, and only now we are seeing Shabana Mahmood talk about a Rwanda-style approach.
Yeah.
They had that option at the beginning of the government. We're 2.5 years in. The reality is they don't want to take any decisive action in terms of stopping the boats. Andy Burnham believes in open borders. I am in no doubt about that.
Really? You reckon Andy Burnham does actually not want to do anything about it?
I genuinely believe that. You can't, and it took me some time. You know, I used to be in the Labour Party and I used to believe Gordon Brown and other Ed Miliband, yeah, we want to stop the boats, Keir Starmer, absolute nonsense. They have no intention of trying to stop illegal immigration.
So if I had Andy Burnham here and he was sat in front of a woman from, say, Epping whose daughter had been raped or... what would he say? How would he justify his open border policy then, Si?
Oh, you'd get all the warm words. He's a very good communicator, isn't he, Burnham? That's why he's replaced Starmer, because he can pull off a convincing act, and that's what you'd certainly get. He'd be very sympathetic and all the rest of it. And he would talk tough, because that's what we've seen them do. Starmer did the same. We'll smash the gangs. It's all rhetoric. What we're seeing from Shabana Mahmood today about a Rwanda-style approach, it's rhetoric. That's all it is. And it's to give them time to carry on doing what they're doing. And that's leaving our borders open. I guarantee, and you had Kevin Foster on there, he was a former Conservative immigration minister. Nothing changed under them either. Let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation about this. Nothing will change under the Conservatives or under Labour. They've had years upon years to do something about it. And credit to Reform, I have to say this, even objectively, Operation Fortress, which they launched, I think, a week ago, turning the boats around using third countries to return people to, about coming out to the European Convention on Human Rights. It has to be that decisive. We've been talking about this for far too long, letting the mainstream parties get away with it, and things have to change.
Mate, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. We should get you on more regularly. We really appreciate it. And you're right. You know, words are one thing. We have to see will. We have to see desire. We have to see that the politicians of this country are listening to people. And when your Prime Minister is not prioritising the safety of women in terms of this, I think it's absolutely outrageous. Simon Downshire, thank you so much indeed. It's almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Meg back. And this appalling document from the Home Office laying bare that migrants don't have the same value system. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. And next, my favourite guest ever all week on every show, Sarah Vine, the legend, next on Talk Breakfast.
Zia Yusuf is one very, very popular amongst the base, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons he is popular is because he speaks from the hip. He speaks in a language and with an attitude that is shared in pubs up and down the country, but not necessarily in Westminster seminars.
Do you think he gets away with being a loose cannon, whereas Tim Montgomery doesn't? Tim Montgomery gets suspended, Zia Yusuf gets hugged closer.
There's a big difference. Tim is an ordinary party member. He is not a spokesperson. He is not an elected member. He's not on the board. He literally has no role in the party.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working.
We've just witnessed drone footage of the French authorities handing out life jackets to illegal immigrants and then waving them goodbye as they head on their way towards the UK. So the French are actively helping and facilitating illegal immigration. In addition to that, the French forces did nothing to stop that huge migrant dinghy. In fact, the dinghy came out, then it went back to the beach to pick up even more illegal immigrants and then departed for a second time. During all of that, the French did nothing, and they even handed out life jackets and waved goodbye as these illegal immigrants head towards the UK. I think that's terrible. I mean that anyone who did cross the channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Give that a second, he's just dragging a line by the look of it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
Well, I was trying to work it.
Okay. The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said, to consummate fury from most of us, that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister.
Je suis un député dans le Parlement du Royaume-Uni. Why have you allowed the migrants into the water? Why haven't you stopped them?
Our order is to let them go like that.
Your order is to let them go?
We just have to say to them, don't do that, it's dangerous.
So your orders are not to intervene?
We have to protect them.
Well, there's also protecting the border as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, welcome back, or welcome along. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk, the home of common sense, of course, on the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Thanks for tuning in today, Thursday, 20th of August. As I said repeatedly, you might be waking up and this day will be monumental because you got your GCSE results. Good luck. Just remember what Clarkson says, it doesn't define you. It might be the day that you wake up as you're part of the ensemble surrounding the Messiah of Manchester and you go, we've been in power a month. We managed to get rid of Starmer. We've made buses cheaper. Everything's looking brighter in the country. Or you might be like me. You walked in this morning to the double news. The first story, of course, Harry and Meghan. Megxit's become Megback. They're heading back to the United Kingdom 6 years after slagging us off, slagging the royal family off, calling us all racist. They're coming home. Their kids are going to go to a school somewhere. They're going to live somewhere. Loads of questions. Who's going to pay for the security they were denied? So you're coming back because I thought you thought it wasn't... Well, this is what you said last year, isn't it? I mean, this is slightly different, to be fair.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
So let me try a different tack at 8 o'clock. Let me buy him for a sec. The thing is, there's no contrition, is there? What he said was, despite what some people have done in that country, right? What about what you and your wife have done to the Queen before she died, and the Duke of Edinburgh, who was dying in a hospital when you did Oprah Winfrey and slagged off the royal family? What about what you've said about this country and the way that you've disrespected it? Yes, Peter Bletchley talked 2 hours ago about forgiveness. Works both ways, though. No sign of contrition. Jules, good morning.
So it's all gone pear-shaped for Harry and Meghan, and they've decided to return. After years of bashing the royal family, calling the people of the UK racist, and that the media have hounded them, so they had to escape. Well, let's hope now when they come back, the media ignore the 2 grifters. But I doubt they will, and we're going to have to see them everywhere. She'll no doubt be on Loose Women, the Great British Bake Off, using her jams to put in the Victoria sponges and the jam roly-polies. And as she's an amazing chef, no doubt Master Chef as well. Anyway, have a great day.
Listen, I'm not... Somebody else has just put, I look forward to Harry or even better Meghan in the jungle. One's a royal. Get me out of here. You can see it now, can't you? There's lots of argument, lots of derision. Say whatever you want. 0344 499 1000. Text as well, always welcome. Chris Howarth, I mean, this is interesting. Morning, Jez. So Megxit Lexit back to the UK, leaving the US, a country where she claims she wasn't treated like a black woman until she came to the UK. Why come back then if we're so racist in the United Kingdom? Very good point. 0344 499 1000. The other main news story of the day, which is, I mean, beyond comprehension to me. The Home Office today have announced they're going to start spreading asylum seekers more evenly, in a fair way, you know, right, not stopping the boats. At the same day that we discovered, all of us have discovered, a booklet, there it is on screen, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations of the United Kingdom. The government, and I quote, tells young men, both people must say freely yes to sex without threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind at any time if they say even if they've said yes before. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. So the government freely admits that we need to tell unvetted illegal migrant men that having sex with women by raping them or abusing young children is not something that we do in this country, which lays bare, would you not say, ladies and gentlemen, entirely what they know to be the truth about all these people. There's only one person to talk with any authority on both of these subjects. I look forwards to these days. You know I'm like a kid around this girl. Sarah Vine, good morning.
Good morning.
I've been away. Have you missed me? She's not listening.
Yeah, I did miss you. I did Ian last week. It was very exciting.
Oh, you did Ian last week. It was very exciting, Sarah Vine. I'm devastated. How's your cat? Is your cat making an appearance?
I'm not actually at home. I'm in the Good Morning Britain studios because we're talking about the things that we're talking about.
Those were the days. Good morning, Britain. Yes, good God. I bet that Kate Garraway...
Actually, I think I'm in Richard Madeley's dressing room.
Oh, that used to be my... This is unbelievable. That used to be my dressing room. Are you really in that dressing room?
Yeah, I am. There's a portrait of him on the wall,
that was my... Yeah, that is Richard Madeley's dressing room. First, when you turn right, that was my dressing room. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I can deal with it. Garraway will eat sliced apple with peanut butter on because apparently that's what you do. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once actually helped myself to some, not realising it wasn't mine, but it was very good.
Where do you want to start? Meg back or this illegal document? What do you favour?
Well, I think the illegal document is actually more relevant to most people's lives, to be honest. I think it's fascinating that it was a great Daily Mail splash, I should point that out.
Absolutely amazing piece of work.
And it dovetails it's very interesting in the context of what the government has been saying about, you know, everyone having to take their fair share of asylum seekers. There's, as you said, there's no attempt to stop the votes. It's just about managing the problem, which is what this leaflet is. It's managing the problem. And it's acknowledging, and this is quite important. It's acknowledging that a lot of these men pose a serious risk to British women and girls because they come from countries where women and girls are treated very differently to the way we treat people here. And so it's a cultural thing. So they don't understand, that they don't know, they don't believe, because that's not how they've grown up, that you should respect a woman and all of this kind of stuff. But the fact that the government is having to publish this leaflet, is an indication of how bad the problem is. I did a piece a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I sat down and I went through all the sexual assaults on people perpetrated by asylum seekers. And I'm afraid there just are an awful lot of them. And I'm not saying that there aren't, bad sex offenders, homegrown ones. We've got plenty of those.
But that's not a justification. One of those feminists said that to me the day. She said white men rape women, and I was aghast because, of course. And I'm not saying that that's right either. But if you are importing men who have no value system that you have, if you're having to tell them that the very basic things that we would know from birth are wrong, you are laying bare the truth that we don't know who these people are. Yesterday, I had a Labour MP on, Sam Rushworth from Bishop Auckland, who said that the reason that we should allow migration, or the reason people come, that's more accurate, was because they all speak English, didn't seem to accept that we spent nearly 100 million quid last year on interpreters. And the other point was that we'd colonised the whole world. And I literally went, so there you have it. That's the absolute truth amongst the Labour left, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you're completely right. That is the mindset, because but the thing is that, and I think this is something that ordinary voters feel very strongly, which is that whenever they raise this issue with politicians dodge the reality, which is instead of just saying, yes, I can understand that you actually don't want 1,200, men who come from countries that treat people badly, women really badly, living in your village of 400. They don't say that. They just say, well, you're just being racist. And that's what's driving so many ordinary people round the bend. They're not racist. I mean, if it was sort of 20, then perhaps your community could absorb them. Perhaps they could get to know everyone. Perhaps they could learn to live the way that we live. But if you're just dumping huge numbers of people on tiny communities that are very close knit, you're ruining their lives. And I think it's perfectly legitimate to say something. But the fact that the Home Office has done this leaflet is basically an admission that this is a big problem. It's a huge admission. It's.
Do you think it's a get out of jail card? We told them. Is it as simple as that? We tried to tell these people, because I keep coming back to the fact, and I include the Tory government in this as well. I don't understand, Sarah, you know far more than me, why somebody in politics does not have the gumption, the balls, the foresight, or their finger on the pulse to go, do you know what I'm going to do? Not for my own ends, or maybe politically it would be for my own ends, but no, for my country, and because I'm trying to do right. I'm going to completely ignore the ECHR. I'm going to deport these people, and I'll deal with that later. I'm not going to listen to civil servants who are as far left as they can be. And I'm also going to get rid of judges. I mean, the irony, no, it's the wrong word, Sarah. The sadness of the story about the document is, and you'll have seen this story, it was just yesterday that a migrant man from Italy, do you know this story, who raped a sleeping woman?
Yeah.
It took him 9 years, Hendrik Ekwin, to admit he was to blame for the appalling attack, appeared in court, and the judge yesterday, who blatantly is a complete and utter idiot, ruled that he could remain in the UK because he'd learnt his lesson.
No,
if I had a 185-seat majority, you'll laugh at me, apart from having you in the cabinet, I would literally sack all those judges, and I'm being completely serious. I would start to leave the ECHR, I would ignore it, and if I was going to take any consequences, I would. And I don't get why politicians don't do this. That's why I don't get it.
Well, the Tories have said they'd leave the ECHR. I think Farage says he'd leave the ECHR as well. I mean, it's obvious that the ECHR it's one of those pieces of legislation that was designed for very good reasons, but is being totally abused by the legal profession. I mean, there's a whole industry of lawyers who make a fortune from this kind of stuff, and that they are. I mean, well, Keir Starmer was one of them. So it's just a kind of, it's so weird. So it gets weirder and weirder, and every story you read about, you see. There was that one the other day of some bloke who raped a man outside a church, and a homeless person. I mean, it's just ceaseless. And the fact that the Home Office have done this, I think, is just it's an admission of the gravity of the situation. The Home Office don't do leaflets like that unless it's a real problem.
I think Roger in Chichester sums it up for me, and I mean, you touched it. He said, in my mind, this migrant booklet confirms the government has absolutely no intention of stopping or returning illegal immigrants. And he said, in fact, they're going to be dispersed throughout Britain in bigger numbers. And
I
that,
agree.
to me,
I
is
think
frightening.
that's the underlying message, which is that they're just going to try and manage the problem. And what they're going to try and do is to put them in sort of more affluent areas on the basis that we're all. I mean, the thing is, the last Tory government, whatever you say about it, spent a lot of time and money trying to level up the country. Their plan was to try and get everyone to the stage of the best bits of Britain. This government is levelling down. That's their whole agenda, and that, in a way, is a kind of it's shorthand for what this sort of socialism is, which is that it all has to be the lowest common denominator. So if you do well, if you work hard, if you're a striver, no, you just have to be brought down to the level of literally the lowest person.
Aspiration out the window, security.
Yeah.
Just before we move to Harry and Meghan, I always ask you these questions, and again, when one asks this sort of question, people will say, "What are you saying?" Nothing. Where does this end? Because I can absolutely tell you there is the word fairness is on the lips of every single person that contacts this show. And people I don't have a better way, that they're getting peed off and they're getting angry, and that is not going to dissipate, is it?
No, it's not going to dissipate, and I think that I mean, British people generally suck up a lot of nonsense, but I think this is the kind of, I mean, I do think people are at the end of their tether, and you've seen this in some of the demonstrations. The women who've organised to try and protect their daughters. There are, but the government has. It always cracks down. They always crack down on the wrong person. They always go for the easy targets, don't they? They go for the people that they can arrest because they're law-abiding citizens. It's the same with anything. It's the same with fly tipping. They find the farmers whose land is being used to dump rubbish. They don't find the dumpers. Everything is the wrong way round.
Absolutely.
It just needs to be reset.
Completely agree. The voice of complete common sense as usual. Mexico, I woke up to this morning. I don't know your opinion on this. We've never talked about this. Meg, Harry and Meghan are moving back to Britain just 6 years after quitting royal life, with the kids already enrolled in a lovely public school. They're going to not live in a royal residence. They're going to. I don't know how they're going to grift, but patently the cynics amongst us would go, right, so the American dream's over. You've resorted to... I mean, are you going to sell jam in Lidl? Are you going on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here? Truth is, it was only last year he said I could never come back because of the security, a case he lost. Patently the king, I mean, people are saying, is he iller than you thought? Apparently the royals were blindsided. I've no doubt that William and Catherine are fuming. What's your take on this massive story, Sarah?
Well, funny enough, I got a tip-off about it yesterday afternoon, and I was like, no, that can't be true. I was like, I mean, really couldn't believe it. The thing is, it's obvious that their American project hasn't worked. They failed on every level. All Harry's done really is sue people since he's been there. She basically sells jam and flour sprinkles. It's really not been a great success. I think that them coming back is probably the precursor to him returning to some form of royal role. Why else would he come back?
That's Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. I think the king is ill. The king has been ill for a while. We hope that he goes on for a very long time, but he may not. And I think this is Harry coming back and maybe sort of slightly beginning to stake a claim on his heritage. Maybe he's thinking, well, my brother doesn't really like me, for good reason, I should point out, because they have been vile.
So get back before my father dies and get my feet back under the desk. What about the people who say...
Get my feet back under the table.
Yeah.
And, and he does have allies, Beatrice and Eugenie, but also don't forget Princess Diana's brother, Charles Spencer. I kind of sense his hand in this a little bit.
Said it earlier with Blexley. I think they'll go to Althorpe. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And it's either Beatrice or Eugenie's, I can never remember which one of them, but her children are in a school in Oxford. So
and also one of them, again like you, I'm not sure, I think it's Beatrice, has a house in the same exclusive development in Portugal. Listen, Peter Blexley talked earlier about forgiveness and all that. To me, there's been no contrition. To me, even that interview last year, what this country's done to me. They're basically caught... I mean, let me read this from Dave in Bristol. Where the Sussexes have settled back to, will they live their lives as private citizens, as was their intention when they turned their backs on this country? Will they stay out of the public eye? Given their expressed views on Britain that were racist, especially Meghan's, and their inability to refrain from involving themselves in things that give them publicity, when here, will they align themselves with organisations and sections of this country that are working to destroy the United Kingdom? It's history, it's traditions. It'll be very interesting, says Dave, who's as cynical as I am, Sarah Vine.
Yeah, no, I think I'm very cynical about this return. I think it's... I don't know where it will lead, but if I were the Prince of Wales, I'd be pretty annoyed, actually. Because I think this is definitely a land grab of some kind, and like I said, I don't know whether there's some involvement from Princess Diana's side of the family, but that's very much how the battle lines are being drawn.
Well, it was interesting. 2 days ago, Lil Spencer announced this book where he said he would speak the truth. And I was telling the story the other day on the show about the old man, because the old man was at Diana's funeral, and he remembers, he told me this, he was sat next to Henry Kissinger. This is a weird but true story. And he said that when Earl Spencer started speaking and sort of criticised the royals to a degree in their response, you could hear the clap start in central London, and you could literally hear it come up wherever that was and through the doors and through the church. He hasn't, though, with the greatest of honest respect, Earl Spencer. He said he'd look after the two boys. Could he look himself in the mirror? We've all made mistakes in our lives, me more than anybody, but let's be honest, he hasn't been a massive paragon. I mean, how many times has he been married? More than me, for Christ's sake, which takes
I think it's 4 now.
Yeah.
I think he's on his 4th wife.
So maybe, yes, he's putting an olive tree branch out to his nephew. I've no idea, but I agree with you about William and Kate. I always believe that William, in him, was this complete belief in the importance of the monarchy, and I think he would struggle to forget the pain that Harry and Meghan caused his late grandmother, and whilst Philip was lying in a hospital dying.
And just the sort of general selfish, disruptive behaviour that they indulged in when things were going really bad. I mean, they didn't behave. They behaved in a very unpleasant and unfamiliar way. Family is very important to William, I think, and I think the blood is thicker than water and all that kind of stuff. And Harry did not cover himself in glory during that. And plus the stuff that he wrote about them in his book, and all of this sort of bitching about Kate, and it just. I think it runs deep, and I think so. But I think we are seeing a sort of kind of.
I like the land grab comment. I like that comment. I think the land grab comment, I think, might be absolutely right. Because the cynics in America, Kinsey was saying earlier, he's selling it as my dad's ill, I've got to go home.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to say this, that, they didn't tell anyone. They didn't, but they must have known, because if they've got their kids into some school, presumably there's a process there that has to happen, and they can't just have done that out of the blue. The king didn't find out until Sunday. This is their MO. This is what they do. They ambush people because they only care about themselves. They don't give a whatever for.
I want to see the sit-down interview with Sarah Vine.
What, and Harry?
Yeah, you and Harry, you'd be great, wouldn't you? Listen.
But it's quite. I wrote a big piece about 10 years of Meghan a couple of weekends ago in the Mail on Sunday, and I thought it was quite a nice, balanced piece. But apparently, their camp said that I was hateful and that it was a hateful piece. It wasn't at all hateful. But
There's
that's
nothing
the other
hateful about you, sweet.
The other thing is they refuse to accept any criticism of their behaviour.
Absolutely. Can I read you this, which is a brilliant way to finish? Jez and Sarah, I like that. Do you think we can get the Home Office to issue a booklet to the returning Harry and Meghan stating, 1, you don't call all your countrymen racist, 2, you don't slag off your family that have given you everything in public, 3, you don't lie 13 times on a show with some US useless commentator, and 4, whilst your grandfather's dying in hospital, you don't launch a Netflix series slagging off his family? That could be a good idea, couldn't it?
Say no more. That's just genius.
Enjoy my ex-dressing room, Sarah Vine. You're a legend. Thank you so much indeed. I can't believe I used to sit there in my pants. 8:24. We're live across the United Kingdom. Morning, Helen.
Morning, JK. Helen in Knutsford. Wow, this is a cheery subject, isn't it? So, we know that the illegal immigrants don't know how to behave, can't control themselves, need a leaflet explaining what they can't do, which they're not going to bother reading, even if they could read it, and even if they could read it, they're not going to pay any attention to it, are they? Obviously. So we know that more of these men, because they are all men, are going to commit crimes of all sorts, including murder and rape. More of that is going to happen, and the government is allowing it to happen again and again and again.
How can you disagree with that? 8:25. Are we crossing to Westminster? You see, the grass hasn't grown, but the Tories are out in force. The Shadow Transport Secretary, Richard Holden, welcome to Talk Breakfast. Have you not improved the grass yet, Mr. Holden? Look at it, it's very bare.
No, I know, it's pretty bare out here in Westminster this morning. Yeah, it's still pretty dry on the ground. I certainly wouldn't like to be playing football today, because it's going to be pretty hard underfoot here if you get tackled hard.
Can I make a point, Biff? Can I make a point to you and everybody listening that struck me? And this could mean that I end up saying the wrong thing, but isn't it been interesting that all those ridiculous, stupid protesters with their banners, their arguments go out the window when they all go off on holiday? I mean, it seems they've forgotten about what's important because they're all in Mallorca having a nice time, Richard.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely true. They do seem to take time off these protesters when it's not convenient for them or when they fancy a bit of a holiday.
My friend, welcome to a news day. That is dominated by two stories. I'd like to start with this appalling. I cannot. This document. This. What's it called? This document. It's called Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the United Kingdom. It's a Home Office document that basically teaches illegal migrant men what consent means, how they should treat women, how they should treat children. Does this not, Richard Holden, lay bare the fact that this government knows on the day that it announced it wanted to spread asylum seekers more fairly across the UK, that these men are a complete danger to English, British women? It's disgraceful, man.
Yeah, it's completely disgrace. And the truth is, we shouldn't be having any illegal migrants in the UK at all. We need to move towards a system of detain and deport, within a week. That's what we've outlined over the last few months, but you can only do that by getting out of the European Convention on Human Rights. And that's just something that the Labour government is not prepared to do. That's why we're seeing ridiculous documents like this produced at the taxpayers' expense. That's why we're seeing this new rollout of all of these asylum hotels right across the country being proposed by the government, by Andy Burnham as well, because they won't actually take the real necessary decisions, which means we've got to get out the ECHR and deport people who arrive here illegally. If you come here illegally, you should not be able to stay. It should be as simple as that. You shouldn't be given booklets and documents saying, what you should and you shouldn't do. You should be straight out the door. And that's the strongest signal you could possibly send to anybody trying to get to the UK illegally.
I know that you always get this question, but that's part of being in government for 14 years. And I absolutely give credit to the fact that Kemi Badenoch has taken time and changed her party. But I asked this earlier. I can't remember who it was. When you look at the ECHR, I'll give you an example today, Richard, and I'm not even going to say ironic, it's sad. Just to prove the point about the ridiculous, disgustingness of this whole thing. Yesterday, a migrant who raped a sleeping woman won the right to remain in the UK under the ECHR. Hendrix Elwin, 34, took 9 years to admit he was to blame for the appalling attack. He started by saying it was her fault. But a judge, who I think should be fired, ruled that he could remain in the UK and insisted that this man had learnt his lesson. Surely now, looking back, and hindsight's a great thing, you and the past Tory government should have left the ECHR far sooner than we're now discussing it, surely.
It's pretty clear now when you look at it. What happened is the ECHR, when it started in the 1940s, after the Second World War, UK lawyers helped draft it up and things like that. It was there to prevent another genocide. I think what happened in the years since is it became warped into something totally ridiculous, so that you see cases just like the one that you've mentioned, bent out of all proportion to what it was actually there for, which was to save people's lives. In fact, it became a tool of some of these ambulance chasing lawyers, or actually migrant boat chasing lawyers, who are desperately there trying to cash in on Britain's historic generosity. So I think you're absolutely right to say, look, it might have served its purpose once upon a time, but in the last few years it's just become totally abused. That's why we've got to get out of the ECHR now, because we've got to stop these ridiculous cases being brought, and people who should have absolutely no right to be in the UK in the first place, never mind stay in the UK after committing criminal offences, right? They should be gone and their feet should not touch the ground.
Couldn't agree more. I just wanted to, before we talk about Harry and Meghan, I wanted to get your take, Richard, if I can, on something that happened yesterday on the show. I had a Labour MP, Sam Rushworth, from Bishop Auckland on, and he was... Because I sit here every day and I ask about will, because I don't understand if you've got a 185-seat majority, you can't stop the boats in a week, because I could. It'd upset a few people, but that's what I would do if I believed that, and that was my conviction, right? And everybody says, oh, well, you couldn't because of, the civil service or the ECA... But he said the wrong word. Judges as well, right? Sorry, that's how strong I feel about it. He came on yesterday and he said to me, and I quote, the reason that we should allow people here is because they all speak English. I pointed out that we spent 100 million quid on interpreters last year, but more than that, it was a result of our colonisation of the rest of the world. Now, I know we never colonised Afghanistan or Eritrea. I'd just like your response to that, because for me, that told me everything about how the left wing sees the issues that we have right now.
Look, I think you're quite right. I mean, look, Sam Rushworth is one of those people who's, you know, I just can't believe him in some ways. Have a look back. There's a newspaper story just from before the last general election. Sam Rushworth was running holiday camps for kids in Rwanda while arguing for Labour policy to say that the Rwanda scheme was cruel because people shouldn't be sent to Rwanda because it was unsafe. I mean, this is the sort of person you're dealing with when you're talking about Sam Rushworth and some of these Labour MPs. You know, they are unbelievable, right? They are absolutely unbelievable.
Is that sorry? I have to ask you, is that's a fact, what you've just said, is it? That's a fact.
That's an absolute fact. It was a report reported in the Sun newspaper just before the last general election. Sam Rushworth was running a holiday company, sending kids to Rwanda at the same time as he and Keir Starmer and Andy Burnham and the rest of the Labour Party were saying that you couldn't deport people to Rwanda because it was too unsafe. Absolute fact. Check it out online.
Have you seen today, though?
The man is a total hypocrite.
Have you seen... Wow. Have you seen today? And, I mean, this is even... I mean, irony isn't the word. Shabana Mahmood, it's reported this morning, Richard Holden, is also looking at a Rwanda-style scheme where we would send failed asylum seekers to a third country. So why the bloody hell did they throw it out the door first day in government?
Well, I mean, you're asking the sensible questions on this. I really worry, though, that they're trying to spin some of this. I've heard contradictory reports about this. Some of it, they've said, well, we might do some offshore processing. That's where you process people abroad and then bring them back to the UK, even if they've arrived illegally. That is absolute no-no from the Conservatives. We've said, get people out of the country, and they should be out of the country. Nobody who arrives in the UK illegally should be able to come to the UK. You know, I think that's just a sensible way to be, because otherwise you are going to end up with a continuing situation of people illegally crossing the Channel, illegal people smugglers making millions out of the process, and people dying in the Channel as well. Actually, you've got to have a straightforward system. You come to the UK illegally, you can't stay. That's why we've got to get out the ECHR. That's why Kemi's taken, you know, the party in a different direction from where it had been in the past. A direction that, you know, I really, really welcome, and any true Conservative really, really welcomes as well, because it actually draws a line in the sand on where this country should be.
The next... thank you. Really, I agree. I genuinely agree. The other main news story of the day, this isn't a party thing, it's a personal thing. Harry and Meghan, Mexit's become Meg back after 8 years of slagging off this country and the royal family and calling us racist. Apparently they're coming home. There's no question suddenly about security or suing newspapers. I just wondered your take on this news. Many people appalled, to be honest, this morning.
Well, look, it's one of those things. If you're an MP, you try not to wade into criticism of members of the royal family. But I would say this: that we've got some fantastic working members of the royal family who are there day in, day out. Princess Anne, Prince William, and Catherine. The King and Queen do a huge amount for our country. What I don't want to see is a distraction from their great work on behalf of everybody in the country by people who are not interested in that public service, and that's what I'd like to say on that matter. Public service is something that quite clearly runs through the King, the Prince of Wales, and other members of the royal family. I just wish it ran through everybody in the wider community.
I would say that was one of the best political answers I've ever. That was impressive, Holden, because you managed to say an awful lot and absolutely nothing. But on the other, really agree. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Holden, Shadow Transport Secretary there in Westminster for Talk Breakfast. Rob's annoyed already. That's the beauty of this show, is because people respond all the time. He said, listening to Richard Holden, they are merely now following reforms agenda. They are as responsible for the state of this country, the Tories, as Labour. They don't deserve another chance of power for years. I cannot forget or forgive the mistakes they made. You're waking up to the big news. Meg back is happening. I half expect Jason Statham. Have you heard that? Have you seen the film Meg with the big shark? Yeah, never mind. Also, they're coming home. They come... Never mind. And of course, the other... honestly, I can't go on enough about this. Understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK. If you are coming here illegally and you don't speak English, don't worry, we'll give you an interpreter. If you haven't got a job, don't worry, we'll give you a credit card and we'll send you to the doctor. You can go and see the dentist. Oh, and you think it's OK to rape women and abuse children? No, we can't have that. So we'll send you a little document just to tell you it's not possible or right, but we'll still let you in. Shut the borders, get the Navy out and turn the boats round. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Sarah from Croydon. Well, it's clear from this leaflet that the government are now openly admitting that these people are a danger. Now, aside from being absolutely disgusting, they are inviting these people into this country. And God forbid, next person that will be attacked, because it's now a when, not an if, when another attack happens to anybody, because now we know it can happen to anybody, women, children, men. When it happens, I think we now have the right to sue the government's backside, because they have admitted that they are importing people who are a danger to UK citizens. Sue them. This is a disgrace. I am so sick of it, and I think we're being pushed to the edge, and I really think it's going to kick off soon. Thanks, Jeremy.
You doom mongers, you're just killjoys, aren't you?
That's just silly, isn't it? I'm not a doom monger. I'm a fact monger.
Yeah? Well, why can't people just enjoy the summer?
And 1,000 people are dead. And 20 people have lost their homes.
No, well, that's bad.
And
I agree with that.
And now stretch me on breaking
But your facts, you can't say 1,000 people have died because of climate change. That's right.
Well,
you
that's
laugh in a condescending way. You're making yourself look ridiculous. Don't blame me.
This is not a discussion. This is just a rant.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 21 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Darren, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. Darren from not sunny Bradford, where it's chucking it down. Just a quick one. Are the wonderful Meghan and Harry going to move in maybe with Elton John? I mean, they all went through the court case together. They must be best of buddies. Great show, mate. Keep it up.
Imagine if they did move in with Elton John. He'd be standing around every day going, and I guess that's why you call it the blues. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been too long. I met her yesterday. She completely and utterly embarrassed me in front of Kevin O'Sullivan. I haven't seen Samara Gill for a while. I said, hello, darling, gave her a kiss, turned her cheek away and went, I thought I was banned from your show.
Well, you know, I play hard to get. That's the thing.
That's not what I've heard. Yeah, I'm joking. But
actually, yeah, you're right.
It's very nice of you to be back. Now, I know you've been really busy. And by the way, I wasn't here, but I saw it. And can I just tell you, what you did from Clacton, especially in the sea, was bloody fantastic last week.
I think I upset quite a few presenters. I think I wasn't taking
Why?
it. You know, Clacton is a fun place, and I kind of got into the vibe over there.
Can we have a when we're in the old days when we were being like radio DJs and you had an old boss, it was called a snoop session. So so they basically listen to the links that you did on a tape, and then you go into their office and they'd say, right, this was right and this was wrong. I never had a snoop because the guy said to me, my first boss, I can't sit through that crap again. So I managed to last 30 years. You know when you said... You know when you said you might have upset other presenters? Good. I thought it was fantastic. Never change. What a pile of... Honestly, trust me, if you've upset people in this building... presenters, then you're doing something right, in my humble opinion.
I meant it
Marky
jokingly, because I think some people were trying to do a very serious political job, and I was kind of... Clacton is a really fun place.
They will never stop the British people laughing. They did come quite close with the poll tax, to be fair, but I'm being serious, so don't ever change. Where would you like... Let's start with Meg back. I mean,
Massive.
It is massive. Just factually, they're coming back 6 years after leaving. 6 years after really saying they don't want to be in the Goldfish Bowl, then they go, then they sell their story, they slag off the royal family. The royal family is racist, they've slagged off this country. It was only a few months ago he said I could never see a position. He's been fighting for security, he's never won that. Lots of questions. Where are they going to live? Who's going to pay for it? Kids already enrolled in a school, where's that? Peter Blexley started this morning with the old, we should be forgiving. And I went, well, forgiveness begins with contrition. I never see any contrition from these two. They always blame everything else. I would not like to be a fly on the wall in the Wales' house this morning. It begs many questions. Is the king iller than we thought? But most of all, how are these grifters going to get by doing this? Because I think this is worrying times for the rest of the monarchy.
Absolutely, and it's not about forgiveness, it's not about the King's health. They couldn't give a damn. Meghan especially couldn't care less. This is about the fact that they are financially in peril. All of their companies have pretty much gone on the downward spiral. Meghan has actually suffered massively with As Ever. She hasn't been able to sell as much jam as she could.
Is that As Ever the company?
As Ever, as never. Honestly, seriously. But there are reports that there are warehouses full of jam sitting there. Harry obviously admitted on Joe Marlowe's podcast a couple of weeks ago that he's effectively unemployed. And, of course, they've been chucked out by Hollywood. So Hollywood, LA, they want nothing to do with them. And now they are coming crawling back, as you predicted many times, as Kinsey did as well. They are coming back in. And it's so interesting because... Sir Clive Alderton, who was the King's second in charge for a very long time, was sent to a pretty early retirement. He's only 60. He was kind of on the up and up. He helped the King with the...
It's very young, 60. It's not an age to retire.
No, but he was sent off to a very kind of cushy retirement. But he was, he was doing so well at his job. So it was very suspicious because Clive Alderton was the one really standing in between Harry and Meghan coming back and the King welcoming them. So that was interesting. And also the King's butler of 40 years has also left, someone called Bertie Flannery. So I think that this was, in the works for quite a while, and now Harry and Meghan are kind of pulling it off.
But blindsided the royal family. King didn't find out till Sunday. Do you believe that?
No, not at all. I think they spoke about it at that meeting that they had a couple of months ago.
How do you think that William and Kate are going to feel through all of this?
The plates are smashing in the Wales household. They will be, William particularly, will be furious about this. Mostly, I think, because Meghan and Harry are a clown show and they continue to distract from all the good work that the royals do. And, William was just hitting his stride as a future king, and now they're going to bring all the drama with them back to the UK. But this is very well timed for the Sussexes because they know that once William becomes king, they will never be allowed back into the royal fold. And, may I remind you, on the Queen's deathbed, basically, she said, I don't want them to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out royals.
Can I remind you that whilst the Prince of the Duke of Edinburgh was lying in hospital dying, they were doing the Oprah Winfrey documentary and calling the royal family racist. Listen, I'm with you. You know I am. And I've been vocal about that all morning. I don't understand. Well, no, understand's the wrong word. I wonder whether they understand the depth of anger, frustration, and hatred's a strong word, but real derision that millions of people in this country feel. With William, and I'm totally with you, I think this is, and Sarah Vine said, stake in a claim. When William becomes king, I would bet my last penny that he would absolutely take away their titles. He was born into and every Sunday he would walk from Eton, where we used to live in Windsor, up the high street and have lunch with Granny. He was steeped in the importance of the monarchy, about progression, about doing the right thing. He understands what they did to his grandmother. He understands what they did to his grandfather. I don't think he will forgive. And I suspect you're right when you say that Harry thinks, let's get back to England and let's stake a little claim. Now, there's something else that has just come out in the show, not through any sort of research, just how it develops. 2 days ago, Earl Spencer, the brother of the late Diana, the man who runs Althorp's, been married 4 times, who said at the funeral, I'll look after the boys. Not sure. Anyway, he's got a new book where he tells Diana's side, I'm going to lay even money that is involved in this discussion, that they're going to Althorp or something like that. Has to be.
Well,
too
as per usual, I think your intuition is spot on, Jeremy, because this is exactly what is going on. We need to talk about the fact, and, you know, I alluded at the start of this segment to the fact that they are kind of broke, and Netflix has a first look deal with them. Now, when they went back to Althorp, there were rumours that Meghan was taking the old iPhone out and filming different scenes for a potential Netflix documentary.
Diana's funeral.
Exactly. It is the 30th anniversary of Diana's death. And trust me, don't put it past Meghan and Harry to try and cash in on that, because they're going to need to be in London. There's going to be the Diana Ball. There's going to be all the different events surrounding it, the memorials, and they are going to have to be there. So this is purely money and status motivated. Don't think for a second that they give a damn about Britain or the British people. I mean, Meghan herself said to Omid Scobie, I will never step a foot back in that country. So what's changed now, Meghan? Interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, I think we really need to be cynical about their return. And are they going to take the British people and the monarchy for a ride? I think yes.
We love having her on. Don't go anywhere. We're going to a break, then we're coming back and we're talking about... There is a leaflet that basically says, if you do come here illegally, it's a good idea not to rape women. Did you know that? Have a read. You can do that during the break. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 11 minutes to 9. We're live across the UK. Chris and I just had a slight little tiff there. He said, do that. I went, F that. And he went, do as you're told. And I went, no. We're in a bit of a standoff now. Very bossy, isn't he, Samara Gill? Do you think he's quite bossy?
It's a great relationship. This is interesting.
We have a love-hate relationship. No, we don't. We're like a married couple. Lots of arguments and no sex. Wow. Nigel, good morning.
So the Home Office print a leaflet telling asylum seekers not to rape women and not to have sex with children. And every outlet in the UK has put it on their front pages. But let's check the BBC and let's look at their news app. I can't find it anywhere, not one word.
What a great voice note. The BBC, the British Bias Corporation. I know you and Trev. Who's Trev? Kev. We've renamed... It's the Trevor O'Sullivan Drive Time Show. All right, Trev. I know that you talked about this with Trevor on Drive Time yesterday. That was honest.
I did just as it came out, but Nigel's done some brilliant investigative journalism there, because you're right, the BBC...
beyond me.
Look, as I said, it's an admission of guilt from Shabana Mahmood and the Labour government that this is a massive issue. It is a sex crime epidemic that effectively we're importing through the channel and through lorries and buses that come in illegally. And what this really says is everything you've been saying on Talk for years, and you've been banging the drum about it, rightly so, is correct. But we're just going to kind of go around the edges of it. We're not going to pinpoint the actual issue here. We're not going to confront what is going on. So, I mean, it's outrageous, some of the guidance within this booklet. By the way, that none of them are going to read. I mean, first of all, we know what goes on. They get their iPhones and then they get access to the internet, and that's kind of what they do. Or they loiter around local supermarkets with beer and things like that with their 49 quid a week that they get. I think it's interesting, you know, when we talk about consent, it's not just some sort of British eccentricity. It's actually the law here. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases where there have been sex attacks perpetrated by illegal migrants, their human rights lawyers will use the sexual codes within their country where they're from in order to justify their behaviour.
Well, go back to that country with those rules.
Absolutely.
It is beyond me, genuinely beyond me. I mean, this was on the day yesterday, you know this. A migrant yesterday raped a sleeping woman. This was Hendrik Ekwin, 39. Took 9 years he was to blame for the appalling attack. Tried to blame the victim. Yesterday, he said it was my entitlement. Yesterday, a judge who should be fired, in fact, they all should be fired, said he could remain in the UK because he insisted he'd learned his lesson. Henrik Enwin, that was yesterday.
Goodness gracious.
On the same day. And Mahmood today is saying, let's deal with this problem by spreading these migrants further afield. It is absolutely the truth to say that this government know that these men are unvetted, they are dangerous to the women of this country.
This proves it.
You're a young woman, right? I want you, a young white woman, you come from Australia, I want to ask you a question. I had an argument the other day with somebody about this, and do you know what this woman said to me? And I quote, "White men rape women as well." I'd love your response.
Yes, proportionately, yes, sure. White men rape women because they are the majority in this country. That's why the stats are like that. But the issue is we are importing this problem. We don't actually need to have this epidemic of illegal migrants coming across, not knowing any of the cultures, not knowing any of the values. This is a choice by the government, and a very irresponsible one at that. So that's what I would say to those saying that. And we know that these are from hostile countries. Iran, for example, which has perpetrated many terrorist attacks on this soil just in this year. They've claimed, you know, the IRGC has claimed that they attacked those two Jewish men, etc. We know that they are from hostile countries that also have many flagrant misconceptions about women and how to deal with them. And yes, in those countries, in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, there are warped perceptions of females. And by the way, it's not to say that a lot of these men actually do want to assimilate. Not all of them are raping women and pillaging, you know, Britain. But there is far too many of them that have come up in recent news in a litany of attacks against British women and also men, not to mention that pensioner. I mean, this
is from Rob in Newcastle. This isn't censored. I'm not going to censor it. He said, Jez, come on. The internet is full of foreign men trying to meet children online. There are thousands of videos of them being caught by amazing people pretending to be vigilantes. They're a mixture of ages, but mostly married men, either children. They mostly start to beg and cry for forgiveness and say they didn't know it was wrong. This should be an automatic deportation. If this daft leaflet does one good thing, it will be that at court they can't deny they don't know the rules anymore, OK? It is absolutely true, right? He talks about different cultures. He talks about how Iran and Iraq have different views about children and women and how they should live. But as he said, if we're ever going to be compatible to live in peace, if what we hate they don't hate, and we hate paedophilia and we hate non-consequential sex, then if you don't have people who follow those rules, you're screwed. You're absolutely ruined. And to me, it's almost like the biggest abdication of responsibility that any government can do.
Absolutely. I mean, just cast your mind back to Hadush Kabutu, who was the Eritrean migrant who assaulted a 14-year-old. His lawyer used in the courts the fact that in Eritrea the legal age of consent is 14, and so that should be acceptable. He was obviously duly reported, but he was that case, I don't know if everyone remembers, but he was accidentally let out of prison. He went on a walkabout. Shabana Mahmood had to end up bribing him to get back to Eritrea on the plane. So it was a whole thing. But just last week, you know, an Afghani migrant duped a girl on Snapchat. She was underage as well. So this is going on. And unfortunately, if all the Labour government can provide is this booklet, I think we're damned, Jeremy.
I love... We're going to be a little bit late. I don't care. I love having you. Don't just stay there. Just you're amazing. I want to talk to you in the break. But thank you very much, Steve. Samara Gill, that's your name, isn't it? I'm joking. Very quickly, push that button, Big M.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Push that button, Martin. What's the matter with me? Good morning, Martin Lipton, Chief Sports Writer of The Sun. How are you, dear boy?
I'm feeling well, excited about the coming events.
Well, yes, the Premier League returns. A great bit in the back of The Sun, there always is. Frank Lampard, I'm inspired by Jose Mourinho. Have you seen that Jose Mourinho thing on Netflix yet? It's fascinating.
He's a fascinating character, always has been, always will be. I mean, Frank spent most of his days at Chelsea under Jose, learnt a lot from him, occasionally rowed with him, but management is a particular art. If he's got anything of the Jose in him as a manager, and I think he possibly has, then that's a good thing for him. And great for Coventry as they start against Arsenal tomorrow. First time back in the Premier League in 25 years.
Do they survive, yes or no, Coventry, in your mind?
I think unlikely, but possible.
Do Arsenal, who have signed Ezri Konsa, they keep buying, I don't know what's happening at Villa, do Arsenal retain the Premier League in your mind, Martin?
They lose it if they don't. Let's put it in those terms. They should be. They're the team with the most stability, most consistency, and they start from the position of greatest strength.
Just very quickly, Aston Villa have sold Morgan Rogers, they've sold Ezri Konsa, they're apparently going to lose Ollie Watkins, thus Yuri Tielemans to Manchester United. Is this madness, or have they got a plan to start again?
They needed to rebuild the squad. The surprise is how swiftly they've done it, losing 5 or 6 key players. They brought a few in. The Swiss boy they brought in, outstanding talent, but it's a big ask. And they're also having to juggle Champions League, which is the hardest form of football of the lot. So I think realistically, they'll be looking to sneak into Europe rather than remain in top 5.
Maybe teams have to... whatever the situation, the Sun's sports team, it's fantastic. It's about Man United, it's about Arsenal, it's about Coventry. It is the start of the Premier League on Saturday. Martin, thank you to you and the gang at The Sun. You do a fantastic job. Make it The Sun, everybody. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. And next, you cannot wait for this. Mother's on. Can I just say that? Angela Levin's take on Megback. Don't go anywhere.
I don't think there are many communities in this country who want large numbers of men from very different cultures who've come here unlawfully, paying criminals. They don't want them amongst them, not because they're racists or they don't like people because of the colour of the skin or their religion, but it is just an unfair and very difficult burden to put on those communities.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, just past 9, final hour of breakfast for Thursday, the 20th of August. Been saying it all morning. Maybe today will be the day that you remember because you got your GCSE results. Maybe if you're part of the coterie that surrounds Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, you will remember today because it is indeed 1 month since you managed to oust Keir Starmer and steal power from under the noses of the Starmerites. Or maybe today will be the day that you finally realise that this government and governments before them have absolutely no bloody intention of ever even attempting to stop the boats because they hand out leaflets like understanding behaviours in the United Kingdom, which basically says to migrant men, we know you sort of come from a different place where rules are different, but here we don't rape women, we don't abuse children, we don't rape women while they're asleep or stuff like that, because if that's the case, you could get into trouble, although yesterday a judge allowed... Anyway, we'll do more of that. The big news story, it was a Sun exclusive, an amazing piece of work by Matt Wilkinson and the team. Harry and Meg are coming home. That was the screaming headline last night. Mexit's become Meg back. What do we know in terms of details so far? We know that they are heading back to the United Kingdom later this summer. The kids are already enrolled in school. No plans to take up royal duties. They will apparently fund their own lifestyle. No security. Really? I mean... Well, they're going to have to fund their own, because, of course, Harry's fought for years about security. In fact, so worried was he about security that it was just a few months ago he gave this interview to the BBC.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
I think it's quite sad that you now want to come back to your homeland that you've called racist. I think it's quite sad, young man, that you didn't understand the depths of the attacks you put on the royal family. Whilst your grandfather, Prince Philip, was dying in hospital, he had to watch that ridiculous interview with what's her name? Oh, yes, Oprah Winfrey, again, calling the royal family every name under the sun. I don't think it was a good look, my friend, that whilst the Queen was dying, you and your histrionics of your wife and your relationship and everything dragged her down. I don't think, young man, that your behaviour has in any way respected the monarchy. And by the way, I totally agreed with you when you said you wanted to get out, but then you sold your soul. And the only way you made your money is to slag off the very institution you now want to clasp hold of. I wouldn't have you in this country, but I'm sure you'll be on the way back. I cannot wait for this next guest. Brilliant. Mother's back. Angela Levin, good morning.
Good morning. I hope you had a nice holiday.
Well, I had lots of children, love, so I was to come back to work for a rest, really. Angela, I'm just going to let you go. What a bunch of hypocritical, non-contritional pain in the arses these two are. Sorry, I can't have it.
They are horrendous, actually. And unfortunately, they've come with a terrible attitude because they're going to make things that are easy for them, see the king now and then twist it. Meghan's going to make her book out of it, and Harry is going to make money out of it. It's just too awful. Meghan's wanted to make her money for a long time, so she'll use everything there. She'll have many more things to take care of. I think the Diana thing that they're going to make about her for next year, it will make people feel that this is also what the king has done because the relationship wasn't very good, and they will carry on doing this and making it more and more worse for the king. I think it's terrible. I think it will make him quite ill. I think it will make Catherine quite ill because Meghan's going to go up to her and pretend that they're friends again and, oh, hello, hi there. And Meghan and Catherine, I don't know how she will deal with it.
Let me throw at you loads of questions. Do you think, listen to this from Mags. I'm not buying that the king didn't know till Sunday. It might have been his idea, and I really hope William continues to stay in the same way and moves his titles. What a coincidence they're coming back and Earl Spence has a new book. I've got loads to throw at you. Do you believe the king knew before Sunday, Angela?
No, I don't think he did. I think it was very difficult for them to talk at that time because Camilla was there and she would have had a big row with them. So they left it, and then they probably just told to get somebody to tell him. I mean, what could be more rude than doing that?
But let me just, because there's so much. William and Catherine, right? I'll tell you my theory. I'm convinced that he knows, and does it point to the king being ill? I don't know. I'm convinced that Harry knows that when William becomes king, they are out the door and possibly minus their titles. I think this is typical grifter. Get your feet under the table, try and get a bit of a base before my father dies. Do you agree with me on that? Because you do.
It's ruthless and it's war, and he wants to get all these things ready, so it'll be very difficult for William to actually get rid of them, and I hope he does. But then you've got another terrible fighting within the royal family. Yeah. I think he wants to destroy it. I felt Harry had wanted to destroy this because he wants Meghan to be in there. And if he gets rid of the others, he'll be delighted because Meghan wants to be queen.
She wants to be queen?
Yes, don't you know? Yes. That's what she wants. Harry went in to speak to the late Queen, and he said, surely you want to change this from Catherine, because Meghan is self-treated. She's done all the work herself. Catherine has done absolutely nothing.
It's really sad that, because he was really close to Catherine. I mean, that's never going to happen in a million years. Let's talk about them as a couple, though, right? Whatever the motivation, is it to get your feet under the table? Whatever story you buy, the fact is, he spent 6 years and a fortune that he's got to pay back now trying to get security and not succeeding because he's not a working royal. The one thing that's come out of Highgrove and Buckingham Palace is that the king says, well, you'll have to remain non-working royals and you're not going to have security. So how the bloody hell is he going to pay for the big house? How the bloody hell is he going to pay for the security? Is there something we're not being told here? Because there's something going on.
Well, he will pay for it himself.
Has he got money?
I don't know how. He's obviously got money. If he's just bought a house in this country, we don't know where yet. He's got a house in the abroad, and he's got his home in America. So he's got he's got much money, and he can actually grab it all.
The other thing that fascinates me, and I'm not into conspiracy, Angela, Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, 2 days ago out the blue, announces a book in which he promises to tell the truth from Diana's point of view about the royal family. This is the bloke who stood up at the funeral. The old man was there. He told me all about it. And he criticised the royal family a bit. He said he'd be there for both boys, and the old man talked about how you could hear the clap come through the doors and all the way up and all that sort of stuff. Yes, he's been divorced 4 times. I'd hardly be a person to be judged on that. But you know, people are now saying to me, is this part of this, that suddenly 2 days ago he's got this tell-all book? Maybe Althorpe, having gone up there and having seen Diana's resting place, maybe they've cajoled him into enabling them to get somewhere there. I don't know, but then the cynic in Kinsey Schofield said she wouldn't put it past him because they'll probably film a documentary about Diana's grave.
Yes, exactly. That's what I said about Diana. They're going to use that. They're going to take all the filming down there, and it will be very, very embarrassing for the King and, of course, for Camilla, who they both don't like. And I think as well that Charles, not the Charles King, but the other Charles, works very well with Harry and wants to do things with him, and they will be a most terrible twosome, because he's actually not a very nice man. He's had sort of 4 divorces with his wives, and I know that he wasn't very kind to Diana. You know, when she was feeling dreadful and she asked for a place to live, he wouldn't do it for her. So, and he's also said, in talking about his book, that he doesn't care if it's not Diana. He's going to talk as if Diana is talking, but if it's not, I haven't got it right, don't worry. Well, I can't think anything worse than that you start taking someone else's words and you don't give an inch, that if you're doing something that they didn't say in the first place.
Rob's really on one today in Newcastle. He said, please read this to her. Hers an affectionate term for him. These two nobodies only exist because you lot talk about them all the time. Try not talking about them because they don't matter. I'm more interested in watching the grass grow, and they are matter less. What? I don't want anything to do with them. The only person they come, in fact, for is to see his father, but he didn't put Prince Charles. He put another bloke who used to be a major. Are we responsible for blowing smoke up them too much? And I'm being serious.
Well, this is a huge thing, isn't it? That is actually a man who walked away from his family and the great thing of this country, and decided that they were awful, was very rude about them, and they would never go and see them again. And then suddenly, whoosh, in no time, well, it's obviously 6 years, but no time from now that he's been talking to his father, he's decided what he's going to do. I think it's going to be dangerous, because why would he need to do it so quickly? Why?
Well, here's a theory. One rumour, Angela Levin, don't fall off your chair, is that they've split, and Harry is now doing what he wants by returning because the kids will be in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's a possible one. The other one is that he's desperate for everybody to think that Meghan is absolutely wonderful, and this is the only opportunity they can really do that. So who knows yet?
Who made the decision, though, Ange? Because here's the other thing. I've seen a clip with her saying, I will never set foot in that bloody country again.
Yes. Well, I think perhaps that Harry got really fed up with her treating him really badly. And we could all see that. He was like a slave. And I think he suddenly thought, that's it. But he's quite weak, Harry. He's quite weak. But this is something that is far too strong. And I think he's made a terrible mistake. They'll be lying all the way through. They'll be lying all the way through about it. And every time, you know, we see Harry sees his dad, And his dad said, please don't say anything, this is private. And then he goes off to the BBC and tells them all about it. So we don't have anyone we can trust, certainly not Meghan, who makes up things. So, you know, it's a terrible time, and therefore you can't ignore it at all. You must really deal with it.
I'm interested in, though, what you think or how you think these grifters are going to make a living. I mean, how are they going to make money in the UK apart from a book? Round-the-clock security, as we know, is massively expensive. They're not apparently selling the Montecito mansion for 15 million. So, you know, the cynics are going to go, oh, my God, are the royal family / taxpayer paying for this? I hope not. I can't imagine William allowing that. They must... Are they being bankrolled by Earl Spencer? Are they being bankrolled by somebody else? It's really fascinating, mate.
Yeah, but Harry can go round a few charities and say, I would love to help you with this and that. And they'll all say, oh, lovely, you know, naively, they'll say, lovely. So he gets paid for Invictus Games, which is coming up next summer, which his father should say, no, I am not coming. Your behaviour is so bad. They give them vast money. Meghan wants lots of clothes. They have very expensive hotels. So he can pick up all that money. And Meghan is is determined to keep on my Meghan, or whatever she calls herself. And so she'll think everyone would like her jam.
So can I also ask you about the kids? Because he took Meghan and the kids. They came over privately to see the King a few weeks ago. When she said, I'll never set foot in this country again, and when she said the royal family is racist, and when she slagged off almost every bit of the institution, why does she still want her daughter and son to be a prince and princess then? Part of a racist institution. Why is that?
Oh, because it's grand, isn't it? Her children are grand. That's why. And in the classroom, the children have got to be very careful how they call them and what they say. I think it's a terrible thing to do for two small children because people will bully them. But she doesn't think like that. She thinks, I have got these royal children and I want everyone to treat them as they should be done. Well, we'll have to wait. That'll be very interesting if that's what they do. I'm sure they will. You can't... But also, will they see their faces? How do we know if they get to see the little ones' face?
And let me tell you, because my kids... I mean, this isn't me, this is a fact. My kids were at... I mean, it's a known fact, Lambert, which is where George and Charlotte and Louis are now. And my kids, listen, you couldn't turn up for a football and cricket and rugby match from the other school. You could for home parents. There were lots of changes that were needed. There was security at the front and back of the school for quite a while. Check this. This is anonymous. I mean, I don't know. Last year, Harry visited Eton to register Archie for the school. I can tell you that for a fact. Also, they've been looking for a property in the Cotswold for a year or more. I believe this is a long-term plan postponed during his attempts to gain security and bash the media. I don't know what's true. I'd look at Althorpe, I'd look at all sorts of things, but it's... Do you know what really does it for me? And you two, and you and I are a couple of old royalists. I think this is going to put even more pressure on the royal family. Yet again, they've done it when the Queen was not very well. They've done it when the Duke of Edinburgh wasn't very well, and I suspect that Prince Charles, King Charles, isn't very well. And it always comes across to the outsider as about them and what they can get from any situation. You know what I mean?
Yes, because they couldn't care less. And the worse they are, the better they like it. I mean, they're really, really nasty.
Oh, cool. Oh, to Jeremy Kyle and lovely, it says here, honestly, lovely Angela Levin. The Harry and Meghan saga. Call me an old cynic, but there's an old saying where I come from, where there's a will, there's a relative.
Very good.
I mean, you wouldn't put anything past them. Do you think they'll go on national television? Can you see her on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here or something like that, Anne? What do you reckon?
She's very courage. You know, she's very courage. She can be very courage. And so she can do anything she likes. She will write disgusting books that you never believe. She will dress in ways that you absolutely shouldn't. She'll do that wiggle woggle that she did before.
That what? That wiggle what?
A wiggle woggle that we thought she was having a baby, but she probably wasn't. You know, that terrible dancing. And I mean, who would do that? Who would do that?
I don't know what a wiggle wobble is. Do you think she'll sell her jam in Lidl?
Yeah, she was doing that. looked revolting. It was when she was in the hospital saying she was going to have a baby, but I can tell you, and I'm sure you know, that is not the way a baby comes. And so she's absolutely outrageous.
Can I finish? Right. Can I finish with this? Because I think this is... We haven't talked about this. And this is a really important point for me. William and Catherine, who... I don't think... I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be much happiness on that side. They've been and are this consistent, wonderful feature, I think, and I think they're the future of the British monarchy. Let's not forget that a lot of what Meghan stirred up online caused real difficulty for Catherine. She went through cancer. William is massively and rightly protective of his wife, and I can imagine that this will cause a lot of stress to both of them, but specifically Princess Catherine.
Yeah, I can imagine Meghan turning up, knocking at the door and saying, hello, hi, we haven't seen each other for a long time. So what does Catherine say?
Sod off. Seriously, I wouldn't let her in the house. I wouldn't trust her.
No, but I mean, then she could do that as a story. I mean, you have to be very careful. You have to be very...
So anything you say or do, she'll put in the papers?
Yes.
That's interesting, isn't it? My goodness, it's just going to go on and on, this. People say, why are you talking about it? It's gone mad this morning about Harry and Meghan. You're going to be working round the clock, Angela Levin. You're going to be all right.
Goody, lovely.
Look at you. You're just in it because you care. It's not about the money, Levin, is it? We love having you on. Thank you so much, my darling, and we'll see you very, very soon. Angela Levin, lots of love to her. Fantastic. What a story. Listen, what is the truth of it all? It's not going to go away. Are you on their side? I haven't heard from anybody on their side. Maybe you are on their side, right? Fantastic. That's up to you. Come and tell me why. But are you not, like most of us, thinking, what's in it for them? How are they going to do this? Who are they after? Who are they going to turn over? What's the truth about it? Because the truth is that 9 times out of 10 with these two, there's always a motive. The other main news story we'll return to in a sec was Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. Yesterday, we discovered this government document, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. This is given to illegal migrants, which says you're not allowed to rape women or abuse children. That would be a really good idea. Sir John Redwood next on Talk Breakfast.
You know what, I am fed up of commentators, politicians on the left denigrating British history. Yes, Britain had an empire, but I'm standing here in Victoria Gardens in Westminster looking directly at a statue or a monument to William Wilberforce, because what people don't talk about is the immense good that was done by the British Empire. We are the only country in the history of the world that actually set our Royal Navy to work to end slavery. We were the first country to do it, and we were the only country that devoted, money and resource to the great effort of doing that.
The UK. on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:25. Julia is here from 10 o'clock this morning. Ian Collins, is he on this morning? Is he back, Ian Collins? No, it's Dr. David Bully. You like a bit of bully? He's on front one. And Trevor O'Sullivan. I've renamed him Trevor O'Sullivan. I tried to say Kev earlier and it came out. So Trevor O'Sullivan on Drive this afternoon from 4. I saw him the other day. First time we've seen each other for about a year. He's looking brilliant and he does a great job. Drive is on from 4 o'clock with Kev, of course. Scott, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Great show as always. Scott here from sunny Birmingham. Mate, this immigration shenanigans, let me say this, OK? And every British mother and father should be feeling this morning. But let me send a message to Andy Burnham and Shabana Mahmood. If, and I say if, one of these illegal migrants even dare lay a finger on one of my family, honestly, I'll go through the lot of them. And every single parent must feel the same. Rihanna White, I mean, God, the government allowed in her murderer. There's got to be legal consequences there, mate. There has to be. Anyway, great show.
You know what, Scotty, and I, because I sit here every day, I totally get the anger, the frustration, the unfairness, the febrile feeling. I would be exact. Listen, I'm allowed to say this. It's nothing to do with talk. If somebody did something to my kids, I'd serve time. I don't give a toss, and I'll say that to anybody's face. But we would never and should never condone or encourage or anything like that. But I'm not even warning politicians, Christian. I'm just saying, if you can't read the room right now, if you cannot understand the depths of horror that people feel, that a government says, on the day it says, we think it would be fair to spread more of these illegal migrants across the United Kingdom amongst middle classes and places that they haven't been to, because that would be fair for all of us. Not we're going to stop the boats. We find this document, which basically, I haven't heard about this, understanding behaviours and expectations, where have you been? I was going through this last night. Domestic abuse. Listen to this. Domestic abuse to these people is when someone hurts, threatens or controls their partner. Domestic abuse includes physical violence, threats, saying you'll hurt someone, making them afraid. It talks about sexual consent. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. So the very fact you're having to explain that to people tells me categorically that those people coming from countries with a different value system are a danger to the women and children of this country. And on the very day, he says, trying not to sound exasperated, that bloody ridiculous document came out, a judge let off an Italian migrant who raped a woman 9 years ago because he thought it was his right. And the judge said, I think he's learnt his lesson. The whole thing's wrong, man. Totally wrong. Morning to Margaret again. Sorry, Jez, 7 texts this morning. I know. I've loved the show and I'm sending messages. Can I have a mug? Yeah, let's send Margaret, right? I'm only 1 mug a day. Margaret, take Margaret's details. Christian, Margaret can... I don't give a toss, we've only got 20. I'll buy some. Give Margaret a mug. Let's have an argument. I'm not arguing about it. Give Margaret sent 7 texts, OK? 1 mug a day, OK? In 20 days, I'm going on holiday anyway, so don't give a toss. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Margaret gets a mug. Ring Christian now or Rory. Margaret, you're a mug. I mean, you're getting a mug. 9:30, let's say a very good morning to the former Conservative Cabinet Minister. We love this man, Sir John Redwood. Welcome to breakfast.
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, you're in great voice this morning, and my goodness, these politicians do need a wake-up message, as you say.
Oh, mate, honestly, John, when I saw this, I mean, it is beyond comprehension. Now, you've worked in government. You've always told me about your frustrations. That is disgusting. That is an admission, is it not, John Redwood, that the government know entirely who's coming in and the dangers that they hold for the British public. That is an abdication of governmental responsibility, isn't it?
Well, that and the fact that it shows that this government is not in control and it's not doing what the public wants. They should be ashamed of themselves. As you rightly say, they're trying to spread these people all around the country. Well, they shouldn't be going into poor areas or rich areas because we don't want them. And they've been telling us, oh, these are perfectly nice people who are fleeing dreadful things in their own country and they want to just settle down here and behave like the rest of us. And then they realise they don't believe that and they send out this document saying the most basic things. You don't rape women, you don't hit women, you allow women to earn their own living and to make their own decisions. Well, of course, that's what you do in a free society. We don't want people coming in here who don't believe any of that. It's quite incompatible with the decent lifestyle we're trying to create for everybody.
I find it almost unbelievable. And then I come back to reality, John, and I think the following. It shows me that they are not in control. It also shows millions of people, in my opinion, that they have no will to do anything about it. Because I'm putting you as Prime Minister today, and I'm coming to see you in 10 Downing Street, and you've got 186 majority, and you are intelligent enough to know that the ECHR is a block. I mean, we had this story yesterday about the Italian migrant who, you know, got let off because apparently he's learnt his lesson. Tell me that if I sat with you and said, John, unless we stop these bloody boats, unless we do something about these bloody judges, unless we do something about the CCHR, we're going to be consigned to political history. Would you not go to the House of Commons with your majority, pass a 24-hour piece of legislation like the government did over steel, take on the ECHR and say, I'll deal with the consequences and do something right now? Because I would.
Well, of course you would, and your own survival should say that was the right thing to do. It's morally the right thing to do. It's politically the right thing to do. And I find it unbelievable that 2 years into this government, elected on a proposal to smash the gangs, in other words, stop the boats, elected because the Tories had failed to get a full grip on it and hadn't taken out the nasty law from Europe that made it very difficult, then don't bother to do it. Indeed, they make the problem worse. And the Tories have got round to putting into law that you couldn't claim asylum if you came into the country illegally, and Labour scrapped that bit of law. They should have enforced it. That would have started to make a difference. And they won't even look at all the pull factors. They treat so many of these illegal migrants so much better than people who've been long settled here and were born here when it comes to housing and benefits and all the rest of it. People are absolutely sick and tired of it, as you rightly say, every day, Germany. And I don't know why these elected politicians, who are very skillful at winning the election, don't get the public mood and realise that they do have the powers. So use them. Do something. We are fed up.
I couldn't agree more. And on the day that this document is found and this Italian migrant gets told by a left-wing judge, it's all right, you've learnt your lesson. And here's the irony. You talked about how they, within 24 hours, cancelled something that the Tories brought in. Let's not forget Rwanda. My criticism of the Tories always was I didn't necessarily disagree with Rwanda. I disagreed with how long it took Sunak to drag his sorry ass to bring it in. Guess what Shabana Mahmood apparently is looking into? A Rwanda-style scheme that would send failed asylum seekers to a third country. So we've wasted 2.5 years. Another 85,000 people have come in. Our public services are creaking, and now we're told that our women and children are under threat. And do you know what a woman said to me yesterday? John, I really wanted to put this to you all morning. She looked at me, one of the lefties, and she said, and I quote, white men rape women as well. Can't win, man.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? So why don't we therefore invite more rapists in? I'm just so completely absurd. And as you rightly say, they do have the powers to do something. They should have learnt from the Conservative Rwanda experience, because the only thing that stopped the Rwanda thing working was that Sunak didn't have the courage to take out the European human rights legislation getting in the way. I and some other backbench MPs moved an amendment which would have done that fix, and that they, with Labour, voted it down. Labour should learn from that and understand that if they will the end, and they say they will the end of stopping these people coming in illegally, they've got to will the means. But I don't think I believe them anymore that they will the end, because they also will all sorts of other ends, like dispersing people all around the country and giving people who are on the streets priority on housing and so forth. And whilst those are good for people who are already settled here and are our people, it's also an open invitation to all these people coming in illegally. And if you're not prepared to close the door on the illegals, we'll be spending a fortune on providing these offers to people who shouldn't be here.
Completely agree, mate. You know what I think about you. You should have been PM. Sorry, it's a breakfast show and it's madness, but we love, John, having you on, and we're very grateful. We'll have you on again soon. So John Webwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister, thank you, my friend. 25 to 10. We're live across the UK. Still to come. Couple of surprises. Alan, morning.
Morning, Jezza. Listening to your programme this morning and being an ex-soldier, what would happen if we had another war? Who would sign up to leave their women, children and loved ones behind with this crowd in the country? If we had a vast war where everybody was called up, no one would go. No one would go anyway, but the point is, no one would go, and you can't blame them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
One of the first rules I ever learnt when I was doing radio was to be really, really honest. Now, most of the people in this building will absolutely recoil in horror. You heard lots of promos there because the machine stuck. I've just been... want to be honest with people. Let's be perfectly honest. We're sat here listening to promos going, can we get back to the mirror? So that's the reason. There's nothing whatsoever to do with somebody going to the toilet. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. 20 to 10. This royal story has dominated this morning and it will continue to dominate. We'll say a very good morning to Talks. I'm going to call him our pliable correspondent. He might be table tennis, he might be racing. This morning, he's woken up and thought, oh, I think I'll be a royal correspondent. Belly! Rupert Bell, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Greetings from York, because, as you said, I'm... Yes, a couple of
on
three
the
days...
Naves, great victory in the Judmonte for Enable and Andrew Balding yesterday, my friend. Excellent. You enjoying it up there?
I love York. Item, Enable, she's retired, but I know Item won a thrilling race yesterday. I can look at a statue of Dick Turpin where he was hanged. On the Knavesmire. Great place to be. But more importantly, yes, I did wake up and you go, Harry and Meghan, what's going on? Where did this come from? I mean, it feels... And why are they doing it? I think more importantly, what's the reason for suddenly giving up everything in America? Is it just about the children's education? It might be, but I
think
feel
it's no money.
I think there are other forces at play here. Yet they're saying they're going to keep Montecito on. What, they're going to rent it out for vast sums of money, and they've got a house in Portugal. But actually, I think their American dream has turned sour.
I agree. There were so many things that have talked about this morning with this. Kids already enrolled in school. Did the King know? The overriding feeling is that It's to stake a claim and get feet under table in case King does die, because they've no doubt, as I've no doubt, that William will have nothing to do with them and quite gladly take their titles away, Belly.
Well, I think it will be. It feels pretty hard, I think, for William, because suddenly Harry's coming back in and saying, and hopes that people will say, "Look how great I am. All is forgiven."
They won't,
because he. And at the moment, I would have thought William would be seething and thinking, here he comes again. He's trying to wheedle his way back into the royal family. And I think that's part of the problem. Yet they say he will be able to live here. He's not going to be able to be a half-in, half-out royal, but we will see him still go to places like the Well Child, which I have no problem with, the Invictus Games. It all just feels...
Somebody said to me this morning that this suits them perfectly, that they can appear, because the American dream is over for their grifting lifestyles, they can appear to be royals because he can turn up at a couple of charity events or phone a few charities, and with that might come an income. We're told that the king was not aware. We're told that they're not taking up royal duties. They're not going to be having their lifestyle funded. But let's talk about security. There's a clip that I played the other day that said, 6 months ago, he said, "I'll never set foot." She said, "I'll never set foot in that racist country again, for God's sake." What is it all about, man?
I don't know. And the security issue, it shows that was just a pack of smoke and mirrors, without question, the security issues. Because, look, a comparable royal is Zara Tindall, right?
Yeah.
She has her own career. Look, she just won the British Open Eventing Championship last week.
I've known our Zara for years, as you know.
Yeah, and Zara is able to carry on in a perfectly normal life, with able to conduct her commercial businesses, and they're a pretty successful couple from a commercial point of view. That is the blueprint. And they don't have masses of security, if at all. You know, I've gone to events and you don't see any obvious signs of security people around them. So they are the blueprint, and that's the way they need to operate their lives. Low key, just get on with it. No fuss, no bother. But actually, as and when, you know, she turns up at family events and all is good. So it's going to be very interesting. It's a very cynical move, I think, from the Harry and Meghan camp to try and prove that the royal family is short on numbers. And when push comes to shove, when William ascends to the throne, whenever that may be, look, I'm ready and waiting to step in. But I don't think William's, a lot of water's going to have to go under the bridge for that to happen, because William, I think, will be angry and once again saying it's going to be all about Harry and Meghan, and everyone will be focusing on them. And
I think the other thing is, Belly, as well, and you talk about cynical, and I'm with you, whether it's getting my feet under the table, my dad's iller than people know, whether it's, oh my God, William would take the time. The truth is, I've always maintained this. Just when I was going through my thing, I have a great faith in the balance of the British people, actually. I genuinely mean that. And you can listen to, you know, podcasters or focus group people if you're in the royal family. I'm very sure that a majority of Britons do not like the fact that she and he slagged our royal family off, our country off, and almost every part of who and what we are off. Now, you have every right to do that, but don't live here, take advantage, or be involved in a system that you find so putrid that you spend your time slagging it off. And I, you know, you talk about William, and I don't think the British public will... Maybe I'm wrong. Peter Blexley said 3 hours ago, forgiveness is important. I don't think they'll ever forgive them, certainly not her. I don't know. The other rumour, of course, is that they're splitting up, and he's done this because he wants to leave her and he wants to get the kids in England.
Well, that I couldn't possibly comment on that, but the whole thing feels sort of almost rushed in some ways. And yes, you can say the children want to educate them.
Is it rushed though, mate? They must have lodged their names with the school. When did that happen?
Well, exactly. But where is it? There's talk maybe they're going to move to Northamptonshire, but obviously that would near Althorp, or they could move to the Cotswolds, where, of course, the King and Highgrove, and it's obviously a bit of a celebrity sort of area where lots of celebs and Soho farmhouses just down the road and all that sort of stuff.
I've never been there. I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
I've been there once, never again, actually, Jeremy. A lot of kids running around behaving badly.
Sorry, they were my kids. They're a nightmare. I do apologise.
Right. Anyway, there you go. So we don't know where they're going to go, where the school is, and I accept privacy is important for those children, just as for William and for Harry and Meghan. They've got to make sure that they go under the radar and they rebuild their life, but they've got to say sorry at some stage if
completely agree.
Wants to accept them. And at the moment, the country's ready for it, but it's a very cynical move, I think. And oh my goodness me, if we've got to see as ever gloop on sale at various farm shops around the country, I will not be happy.
You'll have to go to Lidl for a jam. Rupert Bell, enjoy York. Thank you, my friend. On the Knavesmire. What do we say? Morning, Jeremy. Oh, my God, loads of people talking. There's so many people talking about this lefty lawyer. Joanna from Salisbury says, hey, Harry's finally home. He's got the children back to the UK because he would never want to leave them behind. She's like me, you see. I smell trouble ahead. I could be wrong. Is my next guest ready? 0344 499 1000. My God, I'm delighted to get my next guest. Top man, author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. Andrew Lowney, welcome to breakfast, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Morning.
Good morning. We talk incessantly about the royals. We talk massively about the House of York. I'd love your response, my friend, this morning to, well, Mexit's become Meg back. Harry and Meghan returning. Many questions, Andrew. The reasons, the validity, security, finances, the king. Not good for the royals, though, is it?
Well, it's a distraction from wider questions about royal transparency and Andrew. But yes, I mean, it's a shock for everyone. Extraordinary cynical move, as you say. They're clearly trying to reinvent themselves. I think it's interesting because it shows the balance of power between Meghan and Harry seems to have shifted. The fact that she's conceded to come back here. I'm just wondering what Christmas at Sandringham is going to be like. I mean, is Harry going to be invited? And if he's invited, why not Andrew and the York children? So I think he's thrown a bomb into the middle of this, the black sheep coming back, and of course, you know how this is going to affect relations with William. William, the good son, has kind of been given a slap in the face with this. So. I mean, it's early days, but this is going to play out in some very interesting ways. But you're absolutely right. They've known about this for some time, and I think it's pretty awful that they didn't tell the king sooner.
So you believe that the king didn't know before Sunday? You're in that camp. What about this Sandringham at Christmas is a fantastic point that we haven't made already this morning. I mean, I read the other day, and you would know this, that the Duke, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was invited to Balmoral for a couple of weeks this summer, which I thought was extraordinary. I was reading this last week, but turned it down, unless this is press rubbish, because he didn't want to feel like an outcast. I mean, the same thing would happen with Sandringham, I suspect, at Christmas.
Well, I mean, yes, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, my information is Andrew's been gallivanting around the south of France, so that's far more interesting for him with young women than to go to Balmoral. So I think he had good reasons not to go to Balmoral. But you're absolutely right. The family gatherings are going to be very, very tricky in future. And it'll be interesting to see how William responds to this. Is he going to kind of boycott various events? Because
will they invite Harry and Meghan to all of them? That's in the King's lap, isn't it, that one?
Yes, and I think this is clearly the culmination of Operation Thaw. I mean, he brought in a new private secretary, and his mission was to basically bring about this reconciliation. It does suggest that the king perhaps is not as well as people perhaps thought.
Agree.
And this is kind of bringing the family together before the final days. So, I think, there's clearly a lot more to this than I think people realise.
And I think that's right. A couple of people said this morning, Andrew, that they believe that Harry and Meghan are cynical, and I have to adhere to that, because there doesn't seem to be anything that they do that doesn't in their minds lead to something or is for a reason. If the king is iller than we the public are in knowance of, then it might be those two thinking they'll get their feet back under the table before the king passes, before William takes power, because in my mind William would probably have nothing to do with him again and take his titles away. So I think it could be a power shift as well, a power game, if you like.
I agree. I think, we saw this with the Duke of Windsor. I mean, he actually was thinking about coming back from his exile in the 1940s and 50s and actually looked at buying a house. and they kind of still contained him. I mean, there were tax reasons why he didn't come back, but the finances here are fascinating because, I mean, how are they going to make their money? If they don't rent out Montecito, how are they going to survive?
I mean, is the king going to? I mean, God, can you imagine if on the QT the king decides to finance them? I mean, if that ever came out, I don't think he will. I think he's probably quite strong about the whole thing. I don't know what you think about that, but it is a bombshell, and it's certainly going to get to all of the royal family as an entity, isn't it?
Yes, it's going to change the dynamics enormously. I mean, Harry and Meghan haven't really got many supporters in the royal family, so they're going to be ostracised. I mean, it takes quite a lot of chutzpah to come back, having said the things they've said. I suspect that Charles might be giving him money. I mean, we've got to remember Harry inherited a lot of money from his mother, but he's also now got this male court case, and he's going to have to find some money for that. So it seems a strange time to come back when in some ways he's at the nadir of his reputation.
You know, I started this show 4 hours ago, and Peter Blexley, good mate of mine, I mean, he's a much nicer person than me, Andrew. He talked about forgiveness and about how forgiveness is a very powerful emotion, not only to give but to receive. And I said to him, but for forgiveness you need contrition. And my problem is I don't ever see either of those. I mean, that interview from 6 months ago, he said, and what the people in that country have done to me. You basically called the royal family racist. You basically slagged off this entire country, and you disappeared off, took $100 million and have grifted ever since. And now you're back here because being faintly associated with the royalty, however tarnished that might be, is going to finance you and your family's lifestyle. To me, that's hypocrisy at its worst.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's never really worried them in the past. I mean, this is just another business opportunity. Things haven't worked out in the States, and they're just trying another tack. And there must be, I mean, I imagine there's some sort of strategy here, but you never know with that couple. I mean, they are kind of just reflecting, or they kind of just react to events rather than sort of shape them.
Andrew, have you heard, just before we finish, anything more about the King's health? I mean, there have been comments that maybe this is relevant to that. We had the Queen Camilla, out yesterday, I think, or the day before, saying it was a very difficult time. She was at a cancer charity, speaking very candidly. Do we know anything more about the King?
Well, I mean, you know, there are lots and lots of rumours, and they go both ways. But I mean, this does suggest that maybe Harry does want to spend a bit of time with his father, knowing that his father's time is perhaps more limited than people realised.
Do you think that if the King did pass, that there could be a reconciliation between William and Harry?
I think it'd be very difficult. I think, given what has been said in the past. But, I mean, for the sake of the monarchy, in some ways, the brothers need to somehow reconcile. But I just can't see how that's going to happen.
And the only other thing I wanted to ask you about was obviously, I mean, the book's amazing, The Rise and Fall of the House of York, entitled. What's the latest on that? Any further comment on the investigation or information at all?
Well, the word I'm getting is actually the police are taking it seriously, which I didn't think before. I think when I talked to you before, I thought it was long grass. I mean, I think they are going about it, from what I understand, in a very systematic way. They are collecting a lot of information from a lot of people. And whether they will then say we can't really bring charges, we haven't got the evidence, that may still happen. But I think they're certainly going through the motions.
Andrew Allen, it is always, you know it is, my friend, and I know this was short-term, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Andrew Lowney, go get the book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. Thank you for joining us on Talk Breakfast. What is it, 5 to 10? Julia's here at 10 o'clock. Ian Collins from 1, and Trevor O'Sullivan. Just a joke. We're allowed to joke. Life's too bloody serious. Trevor O'Sullivan with Drive Time from 4 o'clock. Back in 3.
some member of the public. They said, if you were Andy Burnham, what would be the first thing that you would sort out in the UK? And I was thinking of what would be the popular consensus, not the political consensus, because I don't think the public are as concerned about rough sleeping as they are about potholes. Why doesn't he sort out the potholes and send a message to people, we're actually going to improve the quality of life in the United Kingdom? And
but
so
potholes don't matter as much as people. I mean, you can't be saying that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Thank you so much indeed for listening this morning. We're back tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Yes, a whole week. Thank you to Big Mark. Thank you to Rory. Thank you to Christian, who wore the same outfit as me. But most of all, thank you to the Queen. Neha runs this whole thing. She is the Queen. Joanna in Salisbury says, Jez, Harry and Meghan in the Cotswolds with resettled migrants. Great. Economic migrants together. Interesting. India. Morning, Jez. I'm sick of these leftists saying that British men commit rape. That is not an excuse to import foreign criminals who do it as well. Would any other country do this? They're making this country unsafe for women and children. Linda is in Deal. Rosie is it? No, Sarah. Why does he say Rosie? Sarah's from Liverpool. If the government wants to disperse these illegal immigrants fairly across the UK, I think it's only fair females should be able to carry pepper spray or be given free defence class lessons, because these men who come over do not see us as women. We are merely objects that they want. Roger in Chichester. We must ignore the ECHR and cease legal aid for lefty lawyers to act for illegal immigrants. Otherwise, nothing will ever change. Morning to Richie from Mid-Sussex. Jez, this leaflet the Home Office has given out, don't rape women. It should say, don't touch or approach any British women or British female citizens. Elaine, this leaflet for migration men won't make any difference. You cannot change what is in their nature to do. They will keep doing it. Elena, thank you very much indeed. Alison's in Glasgow. We're all across the UK today. JK, regarding this booklet about sexual assault of women and children, what about all the illegal immigrants that have come from these countries and have now been given settled status? What about legal migrants from these countries? Surely they should get this booklet too. Linda is in Worcestershire. Read the government booklet. This just proves to me that women